What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6BS 121. Kizaru Pentakill. I fought the entire summer war. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement Dorag did not expect to lose an army commander so quickly. This Kizaru's attack was really too fierce. Jasmine was the best at escaping, but even so, she could not escape Kizaru's attack. Fortunately, Luffy is still fine. This was a blessing in misfortune. That Jasmine guy protected Luffy in his arms and saved him from being killed directly. It's a pity that Jasmine has no breath now. At this time, the National Army Commander Lindbergh happened to be closest to this location. Because he is full of high-tech weapons, flying is not a difficult task for him. He immediately adjusted the aircraft, made a ground dive, and directly caught Luffy. Then, it flew into the sky at full speed, and the aircraft was extremely fast. It turned into an invisible black dot in the blink of an eye. It was so sudden that most people didn't react. I have to say that the cooperation of the Revolutionary Army is still in place. These guys are not just ordinary people who can achieve such a reputation in this ocean. They are still very powerful, but they only encounter monsters like Marine Admiral. If they meet other opponents, they will be able to deal with them very easily. Today's various failures do not mean that their army commander is not strong enough, it only means that their opponent is too strong. Flying away, Kizaru touched his chin and couldn't help but raise his head to see. Kizaru, what are you doing so stupidly? Kill the flying army captain. Ron sat on the highest podium, knocked on the chair, and then said impatiently. This Kizaru was like a donkey, whipping it to take one step. He won't move unless you hit him, it's really irritating. Kizaru couldn't help but darken his face when he heard this. Why is it me again? Didn't I just kill an army commander? Based on the principle of fairness and justice, I shouldn't be the one to do this, right? Aren't there 2 more Marine Admirals? How about at least letting 837 and the others contribute some? You can't stick to me and cause trouble all by yourself. Let someone else bully you. Kizaru was really speechless. He found that since the summer war, he had contributed the most. It was as if the Inspector General was keeping an eye on him and asked him to do all the hard work. Logically speaking, the opponent has 4 army captains, so it would be fairer for you to at least deal with each one by yourself. Advertisement, can you just let me do it all? Forget it, I will solve the last one. After this is solved, there will only be 2 army commanders left. In this case, we should give one to each of Aokiji and Akainu, right? Kizaru thinks so. Ever since, he raised his head and looked at Lindbergh's position. His aircraft is too fast. At this moment, it has disappeared and there is only a small dot in the sky. It seems that this guy is determined to escape. Everything behind it has been ignored. Since you have given this task to me, I can't let you run away, otherwise it will be difficult for me to explain here. Kizaru sighed. Stretch out both palms and make a square shape in front of you. The next moment, a square yellow light emitted from the middle of the 2 hands. Like being reflected in a mirror. It flew directly to the far distance in the sky. This was the real speed of light, which was many times faster than the aircraft. Kizaru's 8-foot mirror has 2 transmission methods. The first is to reach the destination through continuous refraction. The second is to directly use strong light to achieve instant movement over long distances. At this moment, Kizaru adopted the second method, shooting out the yellow light directly. In an instant, it was directly in front of the commander of the Confederate Army. The next moment, Kizaru's entire body turned into a stream of light, and he rushed out directly along the light, BFFA. The previous 8-foot mirror seems to have constructed a passage. As long as it passes by, Kizaru can turn into a stream of light and arrive along this passage, in an instant. In other words, after using this move, he will be as fast as the light is. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the commander of the Confederate Army. At this moment, Lindbergh's expression suddenly changed. He thought he would definitely be able to escape with Luffy this time. Because his aircraft is very fast, basically nothing can catch up with him. So he has this confidence that as long as he flies into the air, he is safe. As long as he is in the air, he is the fastest. He was firing on all cylinders. Having reached the maximum speed of the aircraft, he did not even look back. He did not believe that anything could catch up. At this moment, he has already flown to a high altitude and is flying at a speed of 1,000 meters. Logically speaking, he should be absolutely safe. Just when he was relatively happy that he finally completed Dolag's order and Luffy was rescued. Suddenly, a light flashed before his eyes. Suddenly a figure appeared in the sky. It was Marine Admiral Kizaru. Lindbergh was flying too fast and had no time to brake. He was about to collide directly with Kizaru in front of him. His expression changed drastically. Isn't this guy too pervert? Can he teleport directly in a straight line? Advertisement, the information I got before is that this guy can only move quickly over short distances through refraction. But I never knew this guy could move so fast in a straight line. At this time, Kizaru suddenly spoke. Looking at Lindbergh, he said, Luffy can't leave here, otherwise the Inspector General will kill me. So, can you please throw Luffy down? Kizaru hovered in midair, touched his chin and said. Lindbergh, of course, would disagree. What a joke. Kizaru sighed. That's such a shame. If you fall from this height, Luffy might be fine, but you might die. If that's the case, then, have you ever been kicked by light? Under Lindbergh's horrified gaze, Kizaru turned around in midair. The speed is extremely fast, and it goes by in a flash. A swish sound, he kicked Lindbergh directly in the stomach. This is an altitude of more than 2,000 meters, plus the kinetic energy of Kizaru's kick. Lindbergh was like an out-of-control meteorite, accelerating and falling directly from the sky. The speed was so fast that it even caused fire. Before this, everyone in the Revolutionary Army thought that Lindbergh would be able to successfully take Luffy out this time. Unlike Jasmine, he is easily caught because he is underground. But Lindbergh is different. His aircraft allows him to move at high speeds, and no one can catch him in the air. However, the sudden change made all the revolutionary troops despair again. I didn't expect that this guy Kizaru would be so pervert in the air. Under everyone's stunned gaze, Lindbergh cut through the air and fell directly to the ground. With a bang, a deep hole was made in the entire ground. The cracked lines spread for hundreds of meters, as if forming a huge spider web with the landing point as the center. It was obvious that after falling from such a high place, it was impossible to survive. Lindbergh is not Kaido, he does not have such good physical fitness. He vomited blood and died on the spot, but Luffy, the rubber figure, is particularly resistant to falls. When all the revolutionary troops saw this scene, they collapsed. There is no way to rescue Luffy from the air, now both the underground and the air have failed. In less than 5 minutes, 2 army captains were lost. And he was killed on the spot. Advertisement: is this Marine Admiral a little too strong? It's completely different from what the intelligence said. Didn't the intelligence say that this guy wouldn't use his full strength on the battlefield? If you don't scold him, he doesn't know how to take the initiative to attack. It has to be said that this trick is really confusing. Seeing the crows flying into the distance, the revolutionary army felt hope again and said excitedly. Kizaru touched his chin and fell from the air to the ground. No matter how much you pay, Ace must be rescued this time. Crows were flying in the sky, and it was impossible to see which crow took Luffy away. So Whitebeard decided to use his last strength to win. It's just that his men didn't know it at first. They planned to use this method to escape. However, at this time, as long as Ace is rescued, no one else can. Their defeat will only get faster and faster. Kizaru, huh? It's me again? I fought the entire Summit War by myself, right? But the Admiral in front of him is really a bit tricky, although he has now gained power beyond the peak, but Huzzy can feel that this power will not last long. Whitebeard knew that he didn't have much time left for himself. Suddenly, countless crows flew over, and then Luffy disappeared from the ground. Sure enough, take a step forward with a whip. After all, there are so many crows in the sky, you can't catch them all at the same time. This was his initial plan. As long as Ace can be rescued, it's worth sacrificing more people. He still doesn't know that he has been used as cannon fodder by his father. I should have nothing to worry about now, right? Can I take a rest? Moreover, at this moment, Marines' morale is high and their combat effectiveness is astonishing. The losses on their side are indeed becoming more and more serious. But why did you work so hard today? And I don't know what method the crow used to prevent it from detecting which crow Luffy was hiding on. Take this island and bury it with you. This way you can bury 99% of the Marines, but Ace, who has Logia ability, will be fine. Originally, Whitebeard planned to sacrifice most of his subordinates and then rescue Ace. At this moment, Ron was speechless because he found Kizaru standing there in a daze again. All the crows started to scatter in all directions. But what Whitebeard didn't expect was that not only would he suffer heavy losses this time, he lost more than half of his squad leaders in one fell swoop, but he didn't even touch Ace. Whitebeard's expression was the worst. This time they attacked Marineford, they suffered the heaviest losses. Just to sacrifice them to rescue Ace. At this moment, he glanced at the entire Marineford, and an idea gradually came into his mind. Kizaru, you are a donkey, aren't you? You won't know how to walk away without fighting, so F*K the crow. As expected of the commander of the Northern Army, with so many crow clones, first don't believe Marine can still stop them. If he continued to consume it, as soon as the potion wore off, the backlash would cause him to lose the battle in an instant. 122. Kizaru Awakening Technique. Rondi's Whitebeard, the Battle of the Strongest Men. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Kizaru felt really speechless now. It seems that I fought the entire Summit War alone. Today's workload is seriously exceeded. If this was normal, he would have found a corner to fish. But now that there is a pair of eyes staring at him, Kizaru doesn't dare to fish. He felt that he had been fighting from the beginning of this battle to now. No matter what tough opponent he encountered, Ron let himself go. Kizaru's heart is too unbalanced. If you ask others to go, why are there so many people here? Why did you just grab this old man and not let him go? Well, Kizaru though, is quite helpless at the moment. But he didn't have much time to complain here, because if you continue to complain, the crow will really fly away. And they are now spreading in the air. The longer time passes, the more they spread. If we try to catch them all in one fell swoop by then, I'm afraid it will be too late. Therefore, we must attack now, even though the crows in the sky are flying away in all directions. But fortunately, the time was relatively short, and their flying speed was not as fast as that of the Confederate Army commander, so they had not completely dispersed yet. Kizaru couldn't help but sigh. It seems that I have to use my strength again. Each of these army commanders is very strong. If you want to deal with them, you must use your full strength every time. After all, they are not like ordinary pirates, these army captains are real strong men. Even Kizaru must be very serious when dealing with them. Otherwise, it would not be possible to achieve a one-hit kill. At this moment, Kizaru raised his head and looked at the crow flying away. He touched his chin, his mouth was crooked, looking very helpless. You can't even feel which crow Luffy is on. This fruit's ability is a bit strange. In this case, we can only kill all the crows. In this case, Luffy can be stopped. I'm a little tired. I've overused my fruit power today. Let's make a quick decision. Kizaru doesn't want to drag it out any longer. He didn't intend to attack the crows one by one. He didn't know how long the attack would last, and if one of the crows escaped and happened to take Luffy away, he would have no way to report it to the Inspector General. At this time, it's time to catch them all. Advertisement. Now that he has made up his mind, Kizaru no longer hesitates. At this moment, the Revolutionary Army has rekindled their hopes. It has to be said that today, their hopes have been rekindled and shattered many times. But this time, they don't think their hopes can be dashed again. After all, Crow is the strongest among all the army commanders. And his fruit ability is so pervert that as long as one of these crows is alive, he cannot die. So if you want to defeat him, you must kill all the crows at the same time. However, this is basically impossible, no one can achieve this. Because there were many crows, they flew away in different directions. Who can be so fast, can kill all the crows at the same time? This is simply impossible. As long as one crow is released, the army commander will not die. This is the terrifying thing about this fruit's ability. All crows are clones, but all crows are entities. As long as one of them is immortal, the main body can be kept alive. It can be said that these crows are not the original body, but they are all the original body. At this moment, Luffy was hidden on one of the crows. Therefore, these revolutionary troops believe that no one can save Luffy. Because there are at least nearly 1,000 crows in the sky, that is to say, the chance of guessing Luffy is only 1/1000th. This chance is too small. Even if Kizaru can fly into the air, he can only gamble on which crow Luffy is on. Because Kizaru had already attacked the captain of the Southern Army just now, everyone knew that Kizaru could fly into the air to attack. But you can only attack one person at a time, so there is no way to stop 1,000 crows. This is the main reason why these revolutionary troops have rekindled their hope and believe that this hope will not be shattered. They believe that the captain of the Crow army would definitely be able to escape this time. I have to say that Crow's tactics are indeed very powerful, using these 1,000 clones to hide where the real Luffy is hiding. He expected that Kizaru would not be able to attack so many of his clones at the same time. After all, he flew away in all directions. The crow is already done. Kizaru has a large-scale damage skill like the 8-foot Magatama. However, he also discovered a weakness in this skill. That is to say, this skill can only shoot continuously in one direction. All light can only propagate in a straight line, and light will not turn. This is the characteristic of light. It can be seen that Kizaru can only control the light to attack in one direction. In other words, if all the crows fly in different directions, then Kizaru's skills cannot hit so many crows at the same time. Advertisement after all, he is also an army commander, so he must have chosen this rescue method after thinking about the opponent's weaknesses. As long as his crow flies in all directions, Kizaru will never be able to stop him. At this moment, all the crows flew into the air and then scattered in all directions. Extremely fast. Looking at the crows scattering in a flurry, Kizaru rubbed his chin. Oh, you are really causing trouble to me. It seems that you have calculated correctly. I will attack you with the 8-foot Magatama, so you will scatter in all directions. Unfortunately, your information about me is still somewhat insufficient. If that's the case, then let this end quickly. Kizaru feels like he has finished all the work of the past 40 years today. Although I am very tired now and want to catch fish, I still gritted my teeth and decided to make a quick decision. After all, the eyes behind him have never left me. Kizaru would never dare to do anything like fishing under Ron's nose. I saw Kizaru standing there with both hands stretched out. Both palms are pushed forward. At the same time, the entire body burst out with intense light. The light continued to converge on the two palms. It is as if the body is like a battery, continuously supplying power to the two palms. Kizaru pouted his lips and then said lightly, knowing that the crow could hear him. Because the characteristic of light is that it can only travel in a straight line. So, there is no way to attack things in front of the body and behind the body at the same time. You were right about this, so your escape mode is indeed the best plan. But you ignored an important piece of information, which is that my ability has been awakened. Logia ability awakening can change the physical rules of the corresponding ability. So, who says light can only travel in straight lines? When Kizaru finished saying this, he also closed his eyes. At the same time, the observation Haki in his mind instantly marked the positions of all the crows in the sky. Asterisk 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 go, an image was formed in his mind, and at the same time, observation Haki predicted the movement trajectories of all crows. Next moment, dazzling yellow light burst out from the palm. The moment it was released from the palm, an incredible scene appeared. All the light drew an arc and began to scatter in all directions. Like countless spider threads, it shoots out in different directions, drawing beautiful curves in the air, and can even turn 180 degrees in the air. This is not the previous refraction, but a direct arc turn. Breaking through the physical rules of light, advertisement. The yellow laser line that filled the sky sprang out according to the position that Kizaru sensed with his sense of sight. In the entire sky, there were densely packed 1,000 crows, some flying in front of Kizaru and some flying behind Kizaru. But Kizaru stood there without moving. The golden thread changed its direction in midair and pierced at different angles. Under everyone's surprised gazes, all the crows in the sky were shot through each other at the same time. Poof, all the crows disappeared instantly. Only one of them was left. At this moment, the main body was looking at the yellow thread passing through the chest in disbelief, and spit out a mouthful of blood. The whole body fell from the air uncontrollably. Also falling down at the same time was Luffy lying on top of him. Kizaru's operation instantly stunned everyone present. The hopes of the Revolutionary Army were dashed once again. This time, they have hit rock bottom. Who would have thought? This Marine Admiral is so pervert that the light can still turn. When Ron saw this scene, he couldn't help but clap his hands. Well done Kizaru, it's wonderful. This was the first time he had seen Kizaru's skill. I have to say that this guy should be pushed properly. Otherwise, he would never fight with his true ability. Dorag was stunned when he saw this scene. He had already killed 3 army commanders, but he still did not rescue Luffy. The hope is getting slimmer, and now we can only rely on Whitebeard to use his strength, because he himself has been held back by Sengoku and cannot move. And Whitebeard could no longer hold his nerve. Looking at Ace on the execution platform, he saw that his own personnel had suffered heavy losses and were no longer enough to rescue him in time, so he decided to implement his own plan. Destroy Ma Linduo. As a result, Whitebeard easily shattered Aokiji's ice wall with his fist. Afterwards, the muscles all over his body swelled, and his 2 arms became extremely thick. Veins popped out, and Whitebeard used all his strength. Suddenly, the entire surrounding space was directly shattered, and the huge shock directly assimilated all the surrounding land, including air. Then the shockwave spread in an instant, and at the same time, Whitebeard's arms had completed the process. The entire space was cracked, and he no longer cared about his own casualties. As long as this punch was struck, a violent earthquake would occur throughout Marineford. All the buildings would collapse directly, and the entire land would collapse. By then, countless marine soldiers would be buried. Here. Whitebeard is going crazy. No, it can't be stopped. Sengoku couldn't help but frown, and the three admirals immediately turned around to look at Whitebeard. They could all feel the destructive power and couldn't help but become nervous. Because it was too late to stop it. As long as these two fists are smashed down, it will be too late. Whitebeard, I'm going to die with Marine, it's really ungrateful. However, at this moment, Ron disappeared from the podium and appeared in front of Whitebeard. At the critical moment, he grabbed the two fists that Whitebeard was about to punch out. 123. Seriously, can you block this punch that has lasted 20 years? Previous chapter next chapter advertisement Whitebeard's purpose is obvious, which is to muddy the water. Only in troubled waters can you fish. Because the current war situation is very unfavorable to them, and normal people can see the outcome. In order to change this situation must be disrupted. Therefore, Whitebeard intends to directly cause earthquakes in Marlene and carry out indiscriminate destruction. In this way, this one-sided battle situation can be collapsed in an instant. If an earthquake occurs in Marineland and all the buildings collapse and the ground cracks, although many of our own people will die, more Marines will also die. Our side is already at a disadvantage, and it doesn't matter whether we die or not, but Marine now has the advantage, and this earthquake can turn all of Marine's advantages into ashes, forcibly pulling Marine to the same level as the current pirates. Moreover, Ace is still a Logia user, so this kind of earthquake cannot harm him. This is why Whitebeard wants to trigger an earthquake at all costs. This is his last trump card. At this moment, Whitebeard used all his strength to bring shock fruit to its ultimate level. The veins on both arms popped out, and the surrounding air cracked in circles, spreading into the distance. Just in the accumulating stage, strong vibrations have been generated, assimilating the surrounding air and land, causing the surrounding land to instantly collapse, and bottomless ravines have divided the entire square into hundreds of 980 pieces. The fractured land. Countless marine soldiers were affected by the vibration, and many even fell into the bottomless ravine. Also encountered were pirates. These were all Whitebeard's sons, but it was obvious that even if they were the same sons, they were different in terms of closeness and distance. For Whitebeard, the most important son is Ace, and as for the others, don't mention them. Dad. The expressions of the pirates change. They couldn't stand still at all, and they immediately called for help to Whitebeard. However, Whitebeard didn't give them any response, or even look at them. The two arms are getting thicker and thicker, and the shockwaves above the clenched fists are spreading. It will be completed soon. Centered around where Whitebeard was standing, a circular field appeared, and the space inside was densely packed with cracks and fine lines. Anything that enters it will be shattered in an instant. Many members of the large fleet under Whitebeard managed to survive the battle just now, but they did not expect that they would become victims in the shockwave of their father. Many people were so shocked that they vomited blood on the spot. When the ground cracked, many people failed to stand firm and fell directly, lifeless. Dorag looked at this scene in disbelief. What a powerful force. He deserves to be the strongest man in the world, and he deserves to be the strongest Paramecia devil fruit. Is he going to destroy the entire Marineford? But this is okay. This may be the only way to break the situation. Sengoku, you can't stop me now, can you? You offended the strongest man. Dolog looked at Sengoku in front of him. At this moment, Sengoku had an anxious expression on his face. This was exactly what Dolog wanted to see most. Advertisement Sengoku snorted and frowned. Although he wanted to refute, he also knew that Dorag was right and he couldn't stop him now. This major earthquake affecting the entire Marineford is inevitable. Because Whitebeard's devil fruit has awakened, the entire air around him plus the ground has been assimilated by the shock fruit. Sends out strong vibrations, there's no way to get close. Even Aokiji, who was the closest, couldn't help but immediately exit the shock circle after several attacks to no avail. Within tens of meters of Whitebeard, any approaching objects have been shattered into powder. It seems to have formed an absolute realm that no one can approach. If you step into the range, this shockwave will be transmitted directly to the inside of the body, and together with the blood vessels and muscles, it will burst in an instant. Killed on the spot. This is the scary thing about Paramecia devil fruit. Once awakened, it can affect everything around it. So the three admiral could only watch and worry outside the field. Akainu frowned, gritted his teeth, and clenched his fists, but there was nothing he could do. Because Whitebeard didn't hold back at all this time and used all his strength to activate shock fruit. So there is no way for the three admirals to get close. Whatever enters this field will be directly shattered. Not to mention the human body. Akainu also tried to attack Whitebeard with Meteor Volcano, trying to forcefully interrupt the spellcasting. But the hot lava burning with flames was shattered into debris when it approached Whitebeard less than 20 meters away. Neither Kizaru's laser nor Aokiji's ice can penetrate this realm. Hawkeye's slash was like a pebble thrown into the sea, without causing any waves. Everyone wanted to try to stop this man, but no one succeeded. Despair. At this moment, Whitebeard couldn't help but smile, watching the people outside the field continue to attack without giving up, but no one could stop him. After accumulating strength just now, everything is now ready. As long as he punches the air with his two fists, he can instantly turn Marineford into ruins. The huge vibration will directly set off a devastating earthquake, and the island will probably be broken into several pieces. This man wants to single-handedly destroy the entire marine. Gu la 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 la, Whitebeard laughed loudly, veins popped out in both arms, and then he suddenly hammered to both sides. However, in the frightened looks of all the marines, in the helpless looks of Sengoku, and in the helpless sighs of the three admirals. Directly above the podium, a sullen voice suddenly came. It's so ungrateful. Advertisement then, Ron slammed the chair with a bang. Under this huge force, the 100-meter high command podium collapsed. Ron jumped directly from the air and jumped directly into Whitebeard's shock field. Sengoku couldn't help but take a breath at this sight, and Admiral couldn't help but become worried. They were afraid that these dense concussion patterns would tear Ron into pieces alive. Boom. What everyone didn't expect was that Ron landed directly in front of Whitebeard unharmed. We are just 1 meter away from Whitebeard. Those densely packed small vibration lines had no way to resonate when they touched Ron's body. Everyone was shocked. How strong is this body? It can actually resist the tearing of earthquake waves? Ron stretched out his hands and grabbed Whitebeard's arms. He abruptly stopped the 2 punches hitting the air. Ron looked very angry and said in a very cold tone, "Edward Newgate, you have gone too far." Ron didn't plan to take action at first. After all, he was the Inspector General and was responsible for supervising the war. He couldn't do everything himself. Then what else would a Marine soldier do? Besides, he could also gain experience as a Marine through this war. Ron is not here to work for Marine. To be precise, everyone in Marine works for their family. Ron is here to supervise the work. However, Whitebeard's move really angered Ron. If he really punched Ron, it is estimated that the entire Marine would suffer close to 100,000 casualties. Under such a devastating earthquake, these ordinary soldiers have no way to resist. Except for a few Marine senior officials, everyone else will die in the earthquake. As a boss, Ron would never tolerate this. Since Whitebeard adopts this method of killing everything, there is no need for him to sit on the sidelines. Whitebeard couldn't help but frown and looked at Ron coldly. At this moment, he was only 1 meter away from Ron. Both hands were already tightly clamped by Ron. Whitebeard is 2 heads taller than Ron. This huge physical pressure did not bring any advantage to Whitebeard. His arms are more than 3 times thicker than Ron's. However, at this moment, Ron's 2 arms were tightly clamped. Even with all his strength, he couldn't break free. Even his arms were controlled so that they didn't move at all. What's incredible to Whitebeard is that this guy Ron can actually stand in his shockwave unharmed. In this field, everything will be torn to pieces, but no matter how hard Whitebeard tried, he could not shake Ron's body. The shock couldn't even penetrate Ron's skin. He also took a step back, and at the same time, raised his right fist high. Advertisement looking up at Whitebeard, "Dad." Garp recalled the horrific scene again. Does it mean that the Inspector General is going to take action? Whitebeard could feel the power gathering in his right fist. How is this going? Although he was dealing with Whitebeard this time, the momentum was the same as before. Then Ron's right fist immediately changed its position, moved back from the waist position, and began to accumulate force. Whitebeard is restrained. Just by putting your fist there, you can feel the surrounding air compressing rapidly. This is probably the first time the Inspector General has taken action against an enemy. Whitebeard was stunned. He didn't expect that this guy didn't have any ink marks at all. He was already ready to take action? "You are still the first person who dares to fight with me." Aiming at Ron in a condescending manner, Ron couldn't help but smile. "Are you finally unable to sit still in 2.0? I thought you would just sit there and watch the game all the time." The only person present who was not horrified was Garp, who was sitting on the execution platform. "Is this already the case before your fist moves?" "No need to scream, Whitebeard is dead. Any last words?" Whitebeard is facing a powerful enemy and does not dare to neglect at all. "Because of your courage, I admit you, and I take this punch seriously," he said in a very calm tone. He was not surprised at all by Ron's performance. It was in the future the observation Haki had foreseen. Ron smashed the 100-meter high podium with one palm and jumped down. This scene instantly swept away Marine's despair, and his anger skyrocketed. Ron smiled, shook his head, and let go of Whitebeard's arm. "I thought we were going to die soon, but luckily we have the Inspector General." Whitebeard lowered his head, looked at Ron, and said in a deep voice, "Use all your strength to gather all the energy of shock fruit here." Seeing Ace still calling from the side, Garp sighed and said. Even San Admiral couldn't help being shocked, and Sengoku also took a breath. Then he took a step back with his right foot and put his right hand on his waist and abdomen. Even looking at it, the space is a little distorted. 124. One punch kills Whitebeard and penetrates red line. Please subscribe. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. The whole space and time were frozen. As if suspended at this moment, an epic and magnificent picture appeared before everyone's eyes. Whitebeard, who is more than 5 meters tall, stands on the left, his huge fist tilted upward and downward. The whole right hand is surrounded by dense earthquake cracks, and the layers of faint halo are getting bigger and bigger. Whitebeard frowned and stared at Ron intently. Veins popped up on his arms, and blood vessel patterns visible to the naked eye were crisscrossing. Before the punch was fired, the pressure brought by Whitebeard alone was enough to make everyone present feel suffocated. The strongest man finally showed his power. He finally stopped making small fuss. This time, he put all his strength into this punch. The shock fruit awakening was carried out to the ultimate level. With Whitebeard as the center, all the gravel within 100 meters was shattered into powder. Sengoku took a deep breath. Such a strong force. If this punch is struck, the entire Marineford will be reduced to ashes. Dorag opposite Sengoku is also full of expectations. This may be their last hope, and at this time, Ron, who is opposite Whitebeard, has a very leisurely expression, which is in sharp contrast to Whitebeard on the left. There are no exaggerated veins bulging out, nor a scary-looking face. The only different move he made was that he moved his right hand backwards for 2 points. The huge height difference made people from a distance feel sweaty for Ron when they saw this scene. If it were them, they probably wouldn't have the courage to stand opposite the 5-meter-tall Whitebeard. Not to mention raising fists against him. This sense of oppression alone is enough to make many people faint on the spot. Gla la la la, bald brat. You are the most terrifying opponent I have ever encountered in my life. More scarier than Roger. Scarier than Sengoku. It's more difficult than anyone else. Standing opposite you this time, I feel even more deeply. Come on, this is my full blow. The strongest punch I've ever thrown in my life. As soon as Whitebeard finished speaking, he moved up and down with the momentum of a strong man who would never return, and punched fiercely. If you win with this fist, you will be fully active. If this punch fails, there will be no regrets. After actually confronting Ron, all other thoughts were forgotten, and the passion that had been immersed in Whitebeard's mind for decades was also stimulated. Rescue is no longer important, victory or defeat is the most important. This feeling of being on the verge of death has not been felt for decades. The fist went from still to accelerating, and the entire space seemed to feel like it was being pushed forward by a huge thrust. The space was instantly split into two. On the left is Whitebeard, with raging waves and landslides squeezing to the right. On the right is Ron. The wind is calm and the clouds are rolling, which is a completely different picture. Advertisement, but behind Ron are all the Marine soldiers and the entire Marine headquarters. All the Marine soldiers watched this scene with fear, because they knew that if Ron lost, they would also die in the earthquake wave shock. Now, the man standing in front of them is their only hope. Behind Ron, looking from the perspective of a Marine soldier. The terrifying impact from the opposite side was like a falling meteorite. The shock wave generated by the acceleration of the fist alone made all the Marine soldiers in the square unsteady and fell to the ground. Not only that, this punch seemed to turn into a wall. With Whitebeard's fist as the center point, the entire space was cut into two parts. The Whitebeard part was full of dense cracks and the black lightning of Overlord Ori Haki. The sea behind Whitebeard instantly surged into waves hundreds of meters high. At this moment, Tsunami is Whitebeard's most loyal follower. The entire island actually started to shake, gravel flew everywhere underfoot, and the entire land cracked, and ravines thousands of meters deep spread out rapidly, centered around Whitebeard's feet. The 100-meter wave behind him turned into Whitebeard's followers, being pulled by this punch and about to crash down. Of the three major natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis and volcanoes, Whitebeard's attack directly accounted for two of them. There is only one person in this world who can have such power. Seeing Whitebeard's fist gain faster and faster, carrying the power of nature. When Ron is about to be attacked, Ron then raised his head and exhaled a breath. He shouted softly, "Punch seriously, Sue." His eyes became serious. The fist at the waist and abdomen suddenly accelerated. He faced Whitebeard with a devastating punch. I have to say that the momentum of the two is already very different. Compared to Whitebeard's devastating aura, Ron's punch looked so ordinary. No visions of heaven and earth were caused during his tenure. This can't help but make the Marines standing behind Ron feel a little frightened. After all, if you observe it intuitively with the naked eye, you can see that Whitebeard is more powerful. Kizaru touched his chin while looking at this with concentration. I've always been curious about how powerful the Inspector General's punch is, and I should be able to see it this time. Garp also nodded and said, Ron's punch has been practiced to the highest level. It is simple and unpretentious. Garp was one of the few people who had seen Ron punch several times, but in the past few times, every punch Ron made caused air compression, as if the space was collapsing. You can feel the pressure on the fist and the suffocating force. But this time it was different. This time the fist was so simple and unpretentious, the air around the fist was not compressed, and the space was not deformed by the punch. But Garp knows that one lap is the toughest. There were only a few pirates and revolutionary troops left. Looking at this scene, they couldn't help but feel confident. Judging from this performance alone, it is obvious that Whitebeard can win. They couldn't help but shout excitedly, "Advertisement!" Dad! Boom! In everyone's expectation, the two fists suddenly collided together. However, the next moment made everyone stunned. This scene surpassed everyone's imagination. When the two collided together, the situation was instantly reversed. Whitebeard's fist, which seemed capable of destroying everything, instantly misfired. The vibrating cracks all around suddenly disappeared. The entire space seems to have been formatted. It fell into peace in an instant. At the same time, Ron's punch was originally simple and calm, but at the moment of collision, a powerful impact suddenly erupted, centering on the point where the two fists collided. It exploded instantly. It was as if the Milky Way was flowing backwards. That kind of strength that was compressed to ultimate suddenly found a breakthrough. In an instant, everything around him was swallowed up, and a powerful air shock wave suddenly exploded from this point. Whitebeard's expression changed drastically, and before he could say anything, he was immediately swallowed up by the impact. Boom! The waves hundreds of meters high behind him were preparing to swallow everything with a devastating momentum. However, in the face of this huge impact, it dissipated instantly. It seemed as if it had disappeared out of thin air. The waves hundreds of meters high were gone. Tsunami, who was originally extremely domineering, immediately calmed down like a good baby. The huge impact directly split the sea here into two, stretching for tens of thousands of meters, until the end of the field of vision. Thanks to the sea, Tuan was able to outline the outline of this punch. A hole hundreds of meters in diameter was cut out in the middle of the entire sea surface. The sea surface that was divided could not be closed for a long time. The air that was originally in Ma Lin's body seemed to be sucked out in an instant, and it was all pushed away by this punch. The surrounding air poured in crazily towards here, creating severe wind pressure. The blow was so loud that all the warships near Ma Linfondo capsized. The whole scene was very quiet. Everyone held their breath, they even forgot they could breathe. I was so shocked by this scene that I was speechless. Quiet, ultimate quiet. The smoke cleared. Only then did everyone see clearly the direction Ron was standing in. Advertisement, where else is Whitebeard at this moment? Ron was the only one standing there. The huge shock made it impossible for everyone to stand up straight. Because just behind Whitebeard, in the very far direction, was the red line. Killed someone. The direction of this hole is where the shockwave of the punch just arrived. There is no trace of Whitebeard. If it were not for the footprints on the ground, it would not even be possible to tell that Whitebeard once stood here. Nonsense. How can we not win? Everyone on the other side has been defeated. You won't know if you don't look at it, but you will be shocked when you look at it. So the Inspector General won. No way, the Red King continent is tens of thousands of meters away from here? The whole earth shook, the whole place fell into silence again. According to the direction of the shockwave of the punch just now, it probably hit the red line. The Marines were all excited. They didn't expect that between the two fists with such a huge difference in expression, it was the simple Inspector General who won. It was as if the sky had fallen. Through this hole, you can actually see the opposite side of the red line. This punch is too terrifying. Wait until the turmoil subsides. Red soil. Continent. Beat. Through. The pirates and the Revolutionary Army have fallen into despair, and the newly ignited hope has been shattered once again. The 100-meter high execution platform broke from its roots and crashed down violently. No, could it be that the punch just hit the red line? Everyone said in unison. They were all frightened by this punch. That way is the red line, until a minute later, suddenly, there was a violent noise in the distance. In the middle of the entire red line, a huge hole appeared, hundreds of meters in diameter. This made everyone take a breath. This is too scary, isn't it? Whitebeard was beaten to ashes? At this moment, they were already despairing. What's going on? Where did this violent shock come from? What did you see? No one answered. After a while, someone said intermittently. Whitebeard was beaten so hard that he disappeared? Immediately, some curious people took out their binoculars and looked in the direction of the Red King continent. Seeing the frightened look in Marine's eyes with binoculars in hand, others couldn't help but ask. 125. Shanks. Please give me some face this time, please subscribe. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement, the red line is punctured. This sentence instantly stunned everyone. Everyone knows what kind of existence red line is. It is not ordinary thick. No force has ever been able to break down red line. This is simply impossible. Before today, they had not even thought about it. Don't even dare to think about it, but today, they saw this scene with their own eyes. In the middle of such a huge red line, a hole with a diameter of several hundred meters appeared. It's so unbelievable. Hey, are you kidding me? The red line has really been penetrated? Is the red line you were talking about the red line I know? Nonsense, of course. Is there any other red line besides this? Just seconds ago, these men had been surprised by Whitebeard's death. I sided Ron's strength. A person as strong as Whitebeard was actually knocked out in seconds by a direct punch. This was a huge shock to them, and it also boosted the morale of all Marine soldiers. Especially those people standing behind Ron at that time. They feel it the most. If Ron hadn't stood in front of them at that time, then they would have died. It can be said that Ron saved their lives, but now, in the face of the fact that the red line was penetrated, the fact that Whitebeard was killed instantly seemed so trivial. Nothing is more shocking than the red line being punctured. Sengoku was so surprised that he couldn't speak at this moment. Isn't this punch too powerful? Garp was there thoughtfully. After all, in the future he had seen, Ron's punch could penetrate the entire island. From this point of view, it seems that it is not incomprehensible to plant a red line. It's just that Ron's punch didn't seem to be doing his best for him. This is what makes Garp more shocked. Marine 3 Admiral fought for a long time, but was knocked down easily by the Inspector General. At this moment, Marine 3 Admiral was also confused. Only by fighting against him personally can you know how powerful Whitebeard is. Even if they join forces, there is no way they can take down Whitebeard instantly. However, this man was killed by Whitebeard with just a seemingly ordinary punch? Advertisement Blackbeard, who had been captured, couldn't help but take a breath when he saw this scene. He originally thought he could find a way to get the shock fruit while Whitebeard's body was there. But now, Whitebeard has been beaten so much that his body no longer exists. Even if he is not caught now, there is no way he can steal the shock fruit. At this moment, Ace collapsed. He stared at this scene with a horrified face. He couldn't believe it at all that his father, who was known as the strongest man in the world, would die in this way. The remaining members of the Whitebeard pirates have all lost their combat effectiveness. This huge gap in strength directly broke their psychological defenses. Many people just threw the knives on the ground, not wanting to struggle at all, and just surrendered. The few stubborn pirates can't achieve much success. Most of them are core members, including the few remaining captains. Still stubbornly resisting there, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dolog, was also shocked and speechless. I thought we could win this battle by joining forces with Whitebeard. With the two of them joining forces, there is basically no possibility of failure. But who would have thought that today would be a complete defeat? First, the front line was continuously defeated, and then, the main general was defeated. Now that the Whitebeard pirates have become insignificant, the remaining Revolutionary Army is also unable to support itself. What's more, 3 of his 4 army commanders have died. More than half of the Revolutionary Army has suffered casualties. In this case, let alone victory, there is not much hope of escape. And when he heard that even the red line had been penetrated, he couldn't help but be even more shocked. Is this still human power? This bald Inspector General had never appeared before in the intelligence of their Revolutionary Army. As if falling out of thin air, Dorag couldn't help but become curious. Who is he and where does he come from? But at this moment, there is one place that is extremely unpeaceful. There it is Marijoy. 10 minutes ago Marijoy was living a peaceful life. Unexpectedly, all of a sudden, it was as if an earthquake had occurred throughout Marijoy. The vibration caused by Ron's punch that penetrated the red line should not be underestimated. The whole Marijoy on the red line was trembling a little. This scared the 5 elders. The reason they were afraid was not because of the shock, but because they saw the red line being penetrated. The entire battle in Marineford certainly attracted their attention at all times. They also saw the battle between Ron and Whitebeard clearly through the live broadcast. 5 elders, Fat, was even more shocked and speechless. Am I right? Whitebeard was killed like this. 5 elders, Thin, sighed and said, don't say anything Whitebeard, it doesn't matter anymore. Didn't you see that the red line in a Marijoy has been empty? Advertisement, what a big hole. If the punch just moved upward a small angle, I'm afraid our Marijoy would be gone. The 5 elders, sword, couldn't help but feel scared. They never thought that they were so close to death. At that time, Ron only needed to raise the angle upwards. Although Ron's fist was only raised at a small angle, if it was transmitted to 10,000 meters away, it would be a very large range. At that time, it will not be the red line below Marijoy that is under attack, but the entire Marijoy. Based on the area of the huge hole below, if this punch hits Marijoy, it will directly turn Marijoy into ashes. At that time, all celestial dragons, along with their world government, will all disappear from this world. When I think of this, the 5 old guys started to feel scared for a while. This was the first time they felt Ron's strength so intuitively. Before that, they are even worried about Master Ron's safety in the lower world. Now that I think about it, I don't have to worry at all. It's the enemy that I should be worried about. 5 elders, hi, don't worry, Lord Ron may have some sense of measure. If Whitebeard hadn't wanted to destroy the entire Marineford, Ron wouldn't have participated in the battle himself. Ron dusted off his hands, then he said calmly. Why are you still standing there? Are the remaining pirates still waiting for me to take action for you? One sentence directly brought everyone back to reality from the shock just now. Come on, the Inspector General has helped us solve our biggest trouble, and it's time for us to show off. Follow the steps of the Inspector General and eliminate all pirates. What we want is not just to win this war, but to kill all pirates. No pirate can leave here today. Suddenly, everyone was excited. During the battle between the two armies, if one's own general killed the other's general in seconds, it would cause an unprecedented surge in morale. Just like this scene now, all the Marines immediately rushed towards the pirates who had not surrendered. They will knock the people they beat off their backs. Whitebeard brought a total of 43 ships to attack Marineford. Now, there are only less than 20 ships left. Of the 16 division captains, only 8 are left now. Less than half of the captains of the large fleet are left. Kizaru, what are you doing there? Go help Sengoku get rid of Dorag. Ron snorted and scolded angrily. Kizaru was standing with the other 2 admirals at this moment, and couldn't help but be stunned. Why is it me again? There are obviously 3 people standing together, why don't you talk about the 2 of them? The 2 of them are also standing there in a daze. Kizaru was really helpless and came to Sengoku reluctantly with his lips pouted. At this moment, it was in another direction less than 5 kilometers away from Marineford. Advertisement: the red hair pirates are approaching. You can land on the island soon. The violent shaking that occurred in the whole place just now made them all feel a little incredible. The fat chef said with some confusion. Usopp wiped the gun in his hand and said in disbelief. The fat chef and Usopp couldn't help but be stunned. Is it Whitebeard? He is probably the only one with this kind of power that can shake the entire island. Shanks couldn't help but look up. It was rare to see Ben Beckman so surprised, so he was also more curious. Walk around him, don't get caught by him. Shanks frowned and held his hand on the handle of the knife. Shanks led the cadre group and walked towards Sengoku step by step. It seems he is not on this island, Shanks immediately said. Wrong. I saw Shanks leading everyone and entering the battlefield in a very pretentious manner. Ben Beckman also seemed to be deep in thought. Something's wrong, I can't feel Whitebeard's breath anymore. Is this Pluton? It looks unusual, I couldn't help but take a breath. Ben Beckman nodded. Only the boss's face can make them release people. Suddenly a huge pirate ship entered the harbor. Boss Shanks, look at that huge black ship. Sengoku, I'm here to stop this war. Ancient weapon Pluton. Why is this thing here? Hasn't it been lost? The most important thing is to bring Luffy and Rayleigh out. But because of the angle, they didn't see what happened. When he saw this huge black ship, I just felt the whole place like an earthquake. 3 Admiral led the Marine soldiers to carry out a frantic purge of the remaining pirates and revolutionary troops. It was their first time seeing this kind of thing. None other than 4 Emperors red-haired Shanks. Boss Shanks, what do you think? However, at this moment, Ben Beckman suddenly pointed at a giant ship docked at the port and said. After Ron defeated Whitebeard in seconds, the entire battlefield had entered the final stage. What does this mean? If he is not on this island, where else can he be? I can't feel Whitebeard's aura anymore. I'm afraid he's dead. We need to end the battle as soon as possible. Well, and we can't let the war continue to expand. Ben Beckman shook his head, and then said, 126. No one cares about you Shanks, please subscribe. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement, Shanks. Pluton Rayleigh on the execution platform couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't expect that Shanks would also come. What is this guy doing here at this time? If it was before Ron took action, Pluton Rayleigh also believed that Shanks' arrival could have a certain effect. But now, he didn't think so at all. Even Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, could be killed by Ron with one punch. Then it's not difficult to have one more Shanks. So if he came here at this time, wouldn't he be committing suicide? Rayleigh's face darkened. After all, Shanks was his former crew member. He really didn't want to see Shanks die here. So, Rayleigh shouted, Shanks, what are you doing here? Go back now. Hearing Rayleigh's shout, Shanks raised his head. Looking at his former old deputy captain, he couldn't help but smile, his face filled with confidence. Captain Rayleigh, I'm here to end this war. I have to say that Gux feels very proud of himself now. After all, his former captain was here. He and Rayleigh hadn't seen each other for a long time. Basically, he and Rayleigh hadn't seen each other since Roger was executed. Moreover, he is now one of the 4 emperors, and his identity is completely different from before. See you again now. There is a feeling of returning home in fine clothes. It's like you suddenly become the richest man and then return to your alma mater. But when Rayleigh heard this sentence, she couldn't help but darken her face. Are you mentally ill? Are you here to end this war? How dare you think that you can end this war? As Rayleigh, who has seen the whole thing, he is very clear about Marine's purpose of launching the war. Especially after listening to what the Inspector General said just now, he already understood that this battle is not just about winning. What Marine wants is not to win this battle, but to annihilate all the pirates. Destroy all the pirates standing in Marineford. And now, Shanks has stood on this land. If you haven't left yet, are you waiting to be wiped out? You dare to say that you were here to stop this battle? Are you kidding me? You are not sure whether you can go back alive now. You still shamelessly say that you are here to end this battle. I have to say that Pluton Rayleigh is really speechless now. I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for Shanks, he is so fearless. After all, Shanks is the four emperors and their appearance on the stage is quite impressive. As a typical elite pirate group, every member of Shanks' crew is a very powerful person. At this moment, everyone is following Shanks. Shanks held the knife in one hand and walked in the front. Advertisement every step he takes is full of momentum. It even reminds people of the BGM, Luffy's onslaught, unconsciously. The sea breeze blew through the cloak, making the whole scene become desolate and solemn. Shanks looked at Luffy and found that this guy had indeed awakened to his Nika form. Fortunately he is not dead yet. Luffy must be taken away this time. As an esper who has awakened to Nika form, Shanks knows how useful Luffy is than anyone else. This fruit has not awakened for 800 years. At that time, when Shanks snatched the fruit, he actually wanted to prevent the devil fruit from falling into the hands of the world government. But Shanks didn't expect that this devil fruit would be eaten by Luffy. It was all an accident. Now, this devil fruit has awakened. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is an opportunity that many people have been waiting for 800 years. This fruit that can lead mankind to freedom carries the hope of the new world. Perhaps, this is the person Captain Roger mentioned who guides the future. So Shanks must take Luffy away, which is the main reason why he comes here to prevent a fight. Shanks is very confident. After all, he also knew that Marine and the pirates were already fighting each other, and Marine absolutely did not want to fight another four emperors. This is not difficult to understand, and Shanks somewhat thinks that he still has some face. If I were responsible for mediating the battle and taking Luffy away, Sengoku will definitely give himself this face. At this time, Shanks suddenly noticed Dorag. He never expected that the Revolutionary Army would also get involved. It seems that Marine was fighting against the Revolutionary Army and four emperors Whitebeard at the same time. This made red-haired Shanks believe that he could take Luffy away. Since Marine is fighting both sides at the same time, it will definitely suffer heavy losses. They probably don't have the energy to continue fighting against themselves. Therefore, if they come out to mediate this battle, they will definitely give themselves face. Sengoku stood there, watching Shanks walk towards him step by step. Sengoku couldn't help but look at Ron, but found that Ron wasn't paying attention at all. Not even looking at Shanks, still there to direct the closing battle. And arrangements are being made to deal with the wounded. Sengoku couldn't help but shook his head. If we say before this, four emperors was a fairly capable opponent for Marine to face up to. But now, after experiencing the scene just now, all Marines feel that the four emperors are not that scary anymore and are nothing special. So what if the man who claims to be the strongest is still defeated by their Inspector General boxing champion? Advertisement. Now the momentum of the entire Marine is at its peak, which is when morale is high. He simply doesn't care about anyone. Not only did they win every battle, defeating the pirates and the Revolutionary Army, but even the four emperors were killed not long ago. So at this time, the entire Marine did not take four emperors seriously. If the four emperors Shanks come here before Ron kills Whitebeard, that would definitely make everyone scared or nervous. After all, one more four emperors will tilt the entire battle situation. No one was sure that Marine could survive the attacks of the two four emperors. Even win. So if Shanks comes at that time, it will definitely shake Marine's military morale and make them feel like they are facing a powerful enemy. Even despair. But now it's the complete opposite. How tragic was the death of the last four emperors, everyone saw it. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have that kind of confidence. Whitebeard was beaten until there was no ashes left in front of them. If it weren't for the big loophole that was punched in redline, they wouldn't even be able to believe that this was real. After all traces of Whitebeard have been wiped away. There seems to be nothing left to prove his existence. So if Shanks comes here at this time, Marine, who was present, didn't feel any sense at all. There is even a feeling that it is just another four emperors, this feeling. Therefore, the confidence that Ron's attack just brought Marine came from the inside out, giving them confidence. And through Ron's command, these soldiers can also cause serious damage to pirates when they fight in person. The combination of these two is the source of Marine's current confidence. Now when they face the four emperors again, they no longer feel like they were facing a formidable enemy before. You know, when Whitebeard first attacked Marlin, many Marine soldiers were frightened, as if facing an invincible force, but things are different now. Now four emperors is nothing to them. There is even a feeling that you can kill them. Ever since, a very strange phenomenon appeared on the entire scene. Shanks and his four emperors group are walking majestically towards this side. But all the Marines are busy doing their own thing, and no one is paying attention here at all. Not even looking at Shanks. There was no audience for such a spectacular appearance. Bring all the injured over there here. The logistics team will follow. Leave those large pirate fleets to the Special Marines. Advertisement, and you, Vice Admiral, are responsible for leading people to cut off the escape route of these pirates and don't let them escape. Smoker, please deal with the remaining captains. Ron was sitting on the nano chair, commanding the battlefield in an orderly manner. Because he found that no one at the scene gave him face. Are you kidding? Where did he get his confidence? No respect for four emperors at all. There was no corresponding response to his arrival. Smoker said suddenly with a Special Operations Marine. This picture was nothing like Shanks imagined. Shanks was stunned, and right in front of red-haired Shanks. CP9 stood upright behind Ron and stood ready. Tashigi and Stussy stood next to Ron, one on the left and the other on the right. You should quickly stop what you are doing and act like you are facing a formidable enemy. As a result, a very strange picture appeared. There was no impact at all due to Shanks' arrival. At this time, shouldn't Marine be very scared when he sees him? I saw Smoker leading his men and rushing directly into Yi Zhang's team, knocking off the opponent's armor in a few strokes. Smoker's strength was even more impressive, and he defeated Yi Zhang in just a few rounds. And launched an attack on Izo, the captain of the 16th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. Responsible for pouring, the dignified Four Emperors pirate group was actually asked to give way. Shanks was stunned. After Smoker took care of Yi Zhang, he immediately ordered, "Let's go and catch the next one." Shanks was stunned, and the corner of his mouth twitched unconsciously. Who am I? Where am I? The entire battlefield is carrying out the final encirclement and suppression in an orderly manner. A Major Marine was actually talking to him. He couldn't help but stop and watch Smoker lead Team Marine as he walked past him. He just looked at the Marine soldiers transporting the wounded back and forth in front of him. And these soldiers, after receiving the order, all responded accordingly. Why, it's as if these people don't see themselves and don't take themselves seriously at all. At this moment, Shanks also felt something was wrong, and even felt a little embarrassed. Usopp couldn't help but whispered, "Give way, don't block the road." A bald Inspector General was drinking tea while issuing orders to the battlefield below. You actually despise yourself for blocking their way? Boss, they don't give you face, no one cares about us. The remaining captains of the Whitebeard Pirates have once again lost one. 127. Who are you to give you face? If I kill Ace, I still use your consent. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. Shanks frowned and his expression changed. Just entering the venue, Haki's incomparable expression was completely opposite. He never expected that I actually had a cold day. What's wrong with this world? Doesn't it recognize the Four Emperors anymore? Are you kidding me? Boss, aren't these Marines trying to intimidate us? The fat chef said while eating meat. Ben Beckman frowned. Why isn't the current Marine in the same state as the Marine we met before? I always feel like they've changed a lot. Also, where did Whitebeard go? Even if he is dead, his body should be left behind. Why don't you see his body? Ben Beckman is indeed a smart man, and he immediately discovered something different. Shanks was expressionless at the moment and didn't say much. Instead, he walked up to Sengoku. Sengoku, you have already won this battle. There is no need to continue fighting. If we continue to fight, it will only increase casualties, which is not a good thing for you. I'm here to end this battle, Shanks said solemnly. Sengoku and Kizaru are currently confronting Dorag. Hearing this sentence, Sengoku stopped, briefly withdrew from the battlefield, then looked at Shanks and said, "Are you here to end this fight? How do you want to end this?" To be honest, if Ron hadn't expressed his position before, I'm afraid it would be easy for Sengoku to reconcile at this moment. After all, according to Sengoku's previous concept, it is enough to win this kind of battle, and it is not necessary to annihilate the enemy. Because that will cost you a lot and increase your casualties. So as long as you win that battle, but Ron has already stated that in this battle, they want not only victory, but also the complete annihilation of the enemy. Since it was the Inspector General who spoke, Sengoku couldn't make a decision at the moment. When hesitating, suddenly there was an angry shout. Sengoku, what are you doing there, idle? Is it time to chat now? Have you completed your mission? Have you killed the enemies you were asked to kill? Nothing has been done yet. You still have the heart to chat here. Kill Dorag quickly. Don't chat with random people. Advertisement. Ron slapped the chair violently, his voice very displeased. The tone was strong. Sengoku couldn't help but be frightened. He couldn't help it, but after seeing Ron's strength, he would always still have a sense of fear towards this man. So being scolded all of a sudden, even Sengoku couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. He didn't care about the red hair and immediately turned around to face K-Dolog. Joining forces with Kizaru, they soon started fighting Durago. This scene instantly confused Shanks. His eyes couldn't help but turn around and look at the bald man sitting there. I couldn't help but take a breath. He knew this person. He had been in the newspaper before. He seemed to be sent by the world government to supervise Marines' work. But, after all, isn't this guy just an Inspector General? He can actually control Sengoku. As a small Inspector General, scolding Marshal Marine is somewhat incomprehensible. At this moment, Shanks was really confused and didn't react at all. What is the situation now? Who is the biggest Marine? Normally, shouldn't Marshal Marine be here to direct the battle? Why is the scene different this time? This bald man is actually sitting here, looking like a commander. The dignified Marine Marshal actually obeyed his orders and went out to charge and fight. And looking at Sengoku's appearance, he seems to be very afraid of this Inspector General. Shanks had already noticed it when he was talking to Sengoku just now. It seemed that every time he asked Sengoku a question, Sengoku would look at the bald head intentionally or unintentionally, as if he was looking at the other person's expression. Could it be that Marshal Sengoku is no longer able to make decisions in Marine? Do you still want to act based on this bald man's face? Could it be that the bald man is the real one in power now? To be honest, Shanks is really shocked right now. He had a feeling that this Marine was no longer the Marine he knew. Ben Beckman also saw the clues. Since they arrived here, except for the initial attention, no one has paid attention to them since then. Just treat them like air. Everyone is fighting according to the bald man's command. He devoted himself wholeheartedly to the battle and didn't take them four emperors seriously at all. Boss, I feel like there's some fraud involved. How about we withdraw first? As the smartest brain among the pirates, Ben Beckman immediately sensed something was wrong. Today's Marine seems to have undergone a qualitative change from before. Now that the enemy is in the dark and we are clear, they cannot judge Marine's current situation. It is really not appropriate to rush forward at this time. Shanks frowned and said, this trip can't be in vain. We must take Luffy away this time, and we can't let the Nika fruit fall into Marine's hands again. If we miss this opportunity, it will be impossible for us to come back and rescue Luffy next time after Marine recovers. Ben Beckman sighed, but now Sengoku seems to have been sidelined, and there is no point in continuing to negotiate with him. Shanks nodded, so we should find the real person who was talking about this. The fat chef suddenly said, Boss Shanks, do you want to talk to that bald man? Advertisement, but can he give them face? The fact that he can reprimand Marshal Marine in such a public place is enough to prove that he doesn't even give the Marshal the face. Usopp immediately said dissatisfied, that's because he is from the world government, so Sengoku just gave him face. But who are we? We are 4 emperors, and we will not coddle him. If he dares not to give the boss face, we will make him look good. The fat chef suddenly laughed loudly and said, you are right, if he refuses to drink and is fined, then don't blame us red hair pirates for being their opponents. So Shanks, with a group of people behind him, came to Ron again aggressively. Just as he was about 10 meters away from Ron, suddenly, CP9 behind Song and stood up immediately. Blocked in front of everyone, keep Ron behind you. Wearing jet black clothes, they stood neatly in a row with their hands behind their backs. Their aura was not inferior to that of the 4 emperors group opposite. CP9, you guys dare to stop in front of us, Usopp said with a frown. The fat chef was also a little unhappy, it's really strange today. How come you dare to stand in front of us alone? Where did you get the courage today? Get out of my way, our boss wants to talk to your master. Although the fat chef looks happy on the surface, he has the worst temper. Today, our 4 emperors group was ignored one after another, so he couldn't bear it. But now if any cat or dog dares to stop in front of them, this is absolutely intolerable to them. However, no matter what they said, these CP9s stood straight in front of them with expressionless faces. Please give me flowers. Zero Shanks feels very humiliated now. But he still said patiently, you should have the final say here. Don't worry, it will be your turn soon. However, Ron did not look back and just said calmly. Shanks was stunned by these words. What does this guy mean? Did he not understand what I was here for? I'm here to end this fight. Shanks said solemnly. He repeated what he just said to Sengoku. Ron ignored him at all. Tashigi, go over and deal with the remaining division captain with Smoker. He is too slow alone. Yes. Tashigi hugged Xiaoyi Shiger and immediately jumped up to join the battle. With 2 people working together, basically no broadcast captain can hold on for minutes. Soon, all 7 remaining captains of the Whitebeard pirates were captured. Under Ron's command, all the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates were quickly eliminated. This made Shanks even more embarrassed. This guy actually cleaned up the entire Whitebeard group in front of him. Advertisement. Moreover, Shanks was shocked by this woman's swordsmanship, which he had never seen before. Point 0. Okay, Ace is no longer useful. Let's inform him and execute him. Ron waved his hand casually. The purpose of keeping Ace all this time is to attract the Whitebeard pirates to come to rescue him, but now all the pirates in the Whitebeard pirates have been cleared. What? Now, Whitebeard is dead, and everyone in the Whitebeard pirates is also dead. You have won this battle. Why continue to execute Ace at this time? You have won this battle, don't increase the casualties needlessly. Isn't Ace's purpose just to attract Whitebeard? It doesn't matter whether he kills him or not now, right? Shanks immediately frowned and said. Ron then turned his head, looked at Shanks, and said in an increasingly cold tone. If I kill Ace, do I still need your permission? Shanks. Do it. Ron raised a hand and suddenly lowered it. The man on the execution platform received the order and immediately raised his spear. Stop. Give me some face and let this battle end here. If you still want to fight, we red hair pirates will fight until the end. At this time, Shanks finally couldn't help it anymore, pulled out the knife from his waist and said. The sound was so loud that it even erupted into Conqueror's Haki. For a moment, everyone's movement stopped, turning to look at Shanks. As expected of 4 emperors, they are quite impressive in terms of momentum. When Shanks finished saying this, all the cadres behind him drew their weapons. Always ready to fight. The atmosphere was extremely cold, and everyone was waiting for Ron's response. At this time, Ron suddenly said calmly, Who are you? Let me give you face. For a moment, the surrounding Marine soldiers all burst into laughter. The red-haired man was stunned when he saw this scene. These Marine soldiers were actually laughing at him? Is what you said so ridiculous? Do they know what they are about to face? Execution. Ron slammed the chair and shouted loudly. At the same time, the 2 executioners inserted 2 spears into Ace's body without hesitation. Peefed. 2 streams of blood came out. Ace was penetrated to the point of feeling chilled. 128. Ron. Are you here but still want to leave? What are you thinking about? Shanks, please order. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Ace is dead. Right in front of me, Shanks' face darkened, feeling very humiliated. I just told the other person to give him some face. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, he was slapped in the face. This is a huge insult to 4 emperors. Who would have thought that he, a majestic 4 emperors, had just asked others to give him a face and end the battle, leaving Ace alive. As a result, the other party directly ordered Ace to be executed without saying anything. This is not just as simple as killing Ace, this is a slap in the face. Shanks was very angry. This Inspector General did not follow the routine at all. Are there any rules in the world? Everyone is a respectable person, and in many cases, just being passable on the surface is enough. Give each other face, so that it won't be too embarrassing if we meet on the sea in the future. This is a social interaction between big shots. Why doesn't this Inspector General understand anything? Isn't it okay to sell yourself to save face at this time? Doing this will make it difficult for you to get off the stage. Shanks is really embarrassed. I was so angry that I even pulled out my weapon. I didn't expect that the other party was really disrespectful. Shanks seemed to be able to feel the glances from the Marines around him, as if they were watching a joke. This makes him, the 4 emperors, look a bit uneasy with his 593 face. It seems you are ready to go to war with us. Since you haven't fought enough, since you don't want to stop this fight, then we, the red hair pirates, will be your opponents. The red-haired Shanks roared loudly. In such a public place, after being slapped in the face by others, he had to regain his face no matter what. Since Marine killed Ace in front of him, he was ready to go to war with him. If so, let them know the cost of doing so, the fat chef snorted coldly. You really don't know what is good or bad, you don't know where the kid comes from. He has some power in his hands, but he doesn't know how high the sky is. Do you know how much damage you caused to Marine by doing this? It seems that you don't know very well. Today I will let you officially see what happens to one of the 4 emperors who conceals the Drought. Usopp also raised his gun and said in a deep voice. Next, your opponents are the 4 emperors' red-hair pirates. However, just when he raised the gun and pointed it at Ron, suddenly, a figure stood up, very fast, blocking the muzzle of the gun with its slender fingers. Quietly stood in front of Ron. Advertisement, Stussy? I didn't expect to meet you here. I didn't expect that you, CP0, would actually attack him. This really surprises me. It seems that this bald man has a high status in the world government and can be protected by your CPO personally. As the right-hand man of 4 emperors, Usopp certainly knew Stussy. Usually when they deal with world governments, the CPO is basically in charge. The CPO knows almost all the secrets of the world government, even more than Marine. It can be said to be the most trusted force in world government. Therefore, the world government will never let the CPO protect such an irrelevant person. Therefore, it can be inferred that the weight of this bald man in the world government is definitely not low. I saw Stussy smiling sweetly and saying, it's indeed not low. But, you don't need to know. Next time, please don't point a gun at Mr. Ron. Oh, no, I forgot, there won't be a next time for you. After Stussy finished speaking, his expression changed, from the sweet smile just now to a cold and frosty expression. From being harmless to humans and animals, to being filled with murderous intent, it only took a few sentences. Stussy's entire temperament changed drastically. The long, eye-catching fingers suddenly flowed with a layer of light blue light. It is the chi of Liu Sui rock-breaking fist. This sudden burst of momentum surprised Usopp. He has dealt with Stussy before, so he naturally knows her strength. Usopp's observation Haki is extremely good, and he can clearly feel the changes in the opponent's strength. The woman in front of me was much stronger than the last time I saw her. What's going on? It's impossible. You called him Lord Ron, not Lord Inspector. The keen Ben Beckman immediately noticed the difference. In other words, this CPO did not protect him because of his position as Inspector General, but because of his identity. So, the reason why this man is able to command Marine beyond his authority is not because of the power brought by his identity as Inspector General, but because of the power this guy himself possesses. If the CPO really took orders from Ron because of his personal identity, then, there is only one kind of person that the CPO can protect, and that is Celestial Dragons. However, the name Ron is not within the normal naming rules of Celestial Dragons. If he were Celestial Dragons, he should be called Ron Saint. Who is this guy? Judging from the name, he is not Celestial Dragons. The naming rules for Tianlong are very simple. Women are called whatever gong they are, and men are called whatever their translation is. So it's easy to tell, but he doesn't have that name suffix. Wait a moment. Ben Beckman's expression suddenly changed. Among the entire Celestial Dragons group, only one lineage was not named according to this naming rule. Advertisement, that is. Ben Beckman couldn't help but take a breath when he thought of this. He couldn't believe that idea popped into his mind just now. Could it be Im's lineage? Impossible. I have never heard of anyone from Im's lineage appearing in the outside world. If my reasoning just now was correct, that would be bad. As the 4 emperors, they are not afraid of offending anyone in this world, because no one will use all their strength to destroy them. As long as they want to escape, no one can stop them. However, if they offend Im, then what they will face is strangulation with all their strength. This was the case with Rox 40 years ago. He just provoked Im and wanted to replace Im as the king of the world. So in the battle on God's Island, he was surrounded and killed by all the Marines in world government. Otherwise, with Rock's strength, how could he die there without even a chance to escape? It has to be said that Ben Beckman is indeed the strongest brain among the pirates. He can judge so much information through just one title. He already guessed Ron's identity 90% of the time. This is the first person who has deduced Ron's identity so accurately since Ron appeared in the outside world. I have to say that Ben Beckman is truly worthy of his title and the smartest mind in the pirate world. Boss, something is wrong. We seem to have hit a brick wall. Ben Beckman immediately took a step back and whispered behind Shanks' ear in a voice that only Shanks could hear. When Shanks heard this, his expression changed. He lowered his voice and said in a deep voice. What's wrong with you? Did you discover something? I've never seen you so nervous. Shanks naturally knows his old friend very well. Ben Beckman has always been very calm, but he has never been as blue as now. This guy is probably. When Ben Beckman said this, he was suddenly interrupted by a sound. Ron clapped his hands and said, Okay Stussy, it's not their turn yet, stand down. Yes. Stussy's slender fingers instantly cut off Jesus' gun barrel, eliminating his threat. Then he took 2 steps back and stood next to Ron again. Usopp watched as 2 fingerprints were made on the barrel of his gun, and it was flattened. The bullet could no longer be fired. I couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Stussy's strength is several times stronger than before. Moreover, she had clearly had murderous intentions just now, but because of this man's words, she immediately took it back. At this time, Ron said, I like to do things one by one. After eliminating Whitebeard, next, it's Dorag's turn. And then there's you. Did you see the 3 figures on the execution platform? The first one, Ace, is dead now. The second one is Bartholomew Kuma. I will execute him after I finish destroying the Revolutionary Army. The third one is Rayleigh, so you don't have to worry. I will kill you only after the third one, and then execute Rayleigh. Advertisement, everything has been arranged for you. The 3 figures executed this time happen to be closely related to the 3 parties. In other words, Ron planned to use this war to resolve the three forces from the beginning. That's why these three people were executed at the same time in this summit war. Just as he had this idea, he suddenly heard the sound of a giant wheel turning behind him. The purpose is to attract the three parties over. There were hundreds of pirate soldiers of my own on that ship. It turns out that he said don't even think about leaving, and that's what he meant. Since he doesn't give himself face, let him look good. I didn't even have a chance to show my face, get out of the way, move forward at full speed immediately. Shanks frowned and his expression changed drastically. Now that you're here, don't even think about leaving, what do you think, Shanks? However, it was still too late, just heard a bang. When Ron said this, he suddenly snapped his fingers. Of course I have to stay with you until the end. Not even a single board was left behind, it simply dissipated into the air. In just an instant, the entire pirate ship was reduced to ashes. In this case, we red hair pirates will stay with us until the end. Shanks was angry when he saw this scene with his own eyes. Sure enough, it was discovered that the Pluton was turning its gunhead. Ron smiled and then said, "Court death. A cannon as thick as a warship was aimed at his pirate ship, Red Force. No matter how fast his ship is, it can't be faster than the Pluton's cannon." Immediately shouted to the people on the pirate ship. "This is cutting off your own retreat." Shanks' expression also turned cold. "What a loud tone. Can you still stop me if I want to leave?" Suddenly I remembered something and couldn't help but turn around suddenly. The cracks on the entire sea surface cannot be subsided for a long time. Upon hearing this, Shanks couldn't help but change his expression. They didn't get off the ship at that time, they were on standby. He was blown away by Ron's shot. Shanks was confused for a while. Then, the entire bubble began to emit intense laser light, which seemed to be accumulating power. An extremely domineering energy directly cut through the sea, drawing a huge ravine on the sea surface, and then slammed into his own pirate ship Red Force. 129. I gave you a chance but you didn't use it, Shanks. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. Shanks couldn't describe his current mood at all, except anger. He watched helplessly as hundreds of his men, together with his pirate ship, disappeared in front of his eyes in an instant. The huge ravines that were bombarded on the entire sea surface have not disappeared yet. A huge hole appeared where his pirate ship originally was. The seawater there seemed to disappear out of thin air, being hit by a cannon. Immediately afterwards, the surrounding seawater began to form an Uzumaki state, converging toward the middle. It makes a rumbling sound, just like a 100-meter high waterfall, and is as powerful as a rainbow. Shanks has never seen this power before. Shanks didn't know much about the ancient weapon, but he had also heard that the Pluton could kill an entire country with one shot. At first I thought it was a bit exaggerated, but now that I have seen it with my own eyes, I realize that the description in the legend is not exaggerated at all. This is just a casual shot from the Pluton. It has already reached such terrifying destructive power. If you accumulate power a little, it is not difficult to kill an entire country with one shot. Where on earth did Marine find such a thing? That's scary. If Marine chases them in the Pluton in the future, he won't be able to escape even if he wants to. That kind of chasing battle no longer exists. After all, no matter how fast you run, you can't be as fast as someone else's cannon. In the past, you could still hide on a small island when being chased by Marine. But from now on, if I hide on the island again, I will kill everyone on the island with one shot. Shanks frowned. Red Force and hundreds of his men have all been reduced to ashes. Shanks was no longer in the mood to lament the Pluton's attack power. At this moment, he was not only sad but angry. My face felt like it had been slapped, it was burning and painful. He did not expect that things would develop directly in this direction. He originally thought that as long as he took action on today's matter, Marine would definitely give him face. There is no need to go to war, so I took a few elite cadres to the center of the battlefield. And those men stayed on the ship and were on standby. Shanks thought that it wouldn't be long before Marine would give them face, stop fighting, and let them take Luffy out of here. But now, everything has backfired. The trick that has been tried and tested many times has failed this time. Wherever he goes, everyone will give him a face. But at this time, Marine unexpectedly got into trouble. Not only did he not give him face, but he also directly blew up his pirate ship in front of him. Feeling Shanks' anger, these cadres immediately dispersed and each made preparations for battle. Now that they have taken action against their pirate ship, this battle is inevitable. This is a complete declaration of war on them red hair pirates. Boss, it's useless to talk more. Since he doesn't give us face, we don't need to give him face. Yes, now that things have come to this, we must give them some color. The cadre group instantly became murderous. Marine's behavior just now had ignited their anger. Advertisement: the true nature of a pirate was revealed in an instant. The way he had pretended to be a thief and a messenger of justice, coming to deliver justice, was shattered in an instant. His ferocious and cruel nature was fully exposed. Shanks still pretends to be calm, he said calmly to Ron. Before we came here, that attack was also sent by the Pluton, right? Shanks suddenly found an explanation. When he and Kaido were confronting, there was a huge energy wave that split the entire sea in two. Passing between him and Kaido, the huge impact made the entire sea unable to calm down or heal for a long time. Before, Shanks was still thinking, what is such a big attack? Now that I see the shot fired by the Pluton, everything seems to be explained. Such a powerful attack should only be possible by ancient weapon Pluton. However, what Shanks didn't expect was that he had just finished saying this. CP9, standing in a row in the middle, originally had a serious expression on his face, but at this moment he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Although they quickly shut up, but it still made Shanks feel bad. What are they laughing at? Was what I just said funny? Shanks feels that he, the four emperors, is losing more and more face, since even CP9 dares to laugh at him. And looking at the eyes of those few of them, they seem to be looking at someone who had never seen the world. This unreasonable expression instantly made all the officers of the four emperors pirate group furious. Usopp was the first to resist, said angrily, "What are you laughing at?" Kaku said with a serious face, "We are professionally trained and generally don't laugh unless we can't help it." Peeved. After Kaku finished speaking, he couldn't help laughing again. This time Shanks and his gang were completely annoyed. Shanks has a dark look on his face. What's so funny about this sentence? Wasn't that attack that caused the sea to split open not sent by the Pluton? How is this possible? If not the Pluton, who could have launched such a horrific attack? Totally impossible. If that's the case, then what's wrong with what I said? Why are these guys laughing? As if you were laughing at me for not having seen the world? At this moment, Ron clapped his hands and said, "Don't be anxious, stay calm here, I'll be with you soon. Sakazuki, Kuzan, you two come here and watch them." Ron waved to the two admirals and then gave instructions casually. Akainu and Aokiji looked at each other and then immediately stood behind the Shanks pirates. Advertisement cut off their escape route. At this moment, even if they wanted to run, they couldn't. The two admirals blocked the escape route in person. Shanks' expression changed, and this time he was extremely sure that this bald man was serious. He really wanted to annihilate himself as well. What a big appetite. "Hawkeye, go over there." Ron pointed to the right of Shanks and said. At this moment, Hawkeye only had one arm left, but he still carried the black knife and walked towards Shanks. Shanks' expression changed. Hawkeye is his good friend. Has this guy also been recruited by Marine? How could it be possible? How could a guy with your personality turn to Marine? This is simply impossible. Moreover, Shanks also noticed that Hawkeye was missing an arm. I couldn't help but be stunned. "Mihawk, where's your arm?" Eagle Eye has a serious expression. "I bet him on the new." "Oh no, he was chopped off by Whitebeard." Shanks' face darkened. He didn't expect that he would now be surrounded by them. There are two admirals behind to cut off the retreat. There are 6 CP9s and a CPO standing in front of them, and to the right is my old friend Hawkeye. To the left is the execution platform, where Garp is sitting, which means they have no retreat now. Completely surrounded. Shanks' expression turned grim. At this time, he no longer expected the other party to give him face. What he is thinking now is, how can he break out the siege? As the saying goes, to catch a thief first, catch the king. Although he was surrounded on all sides, the bald head was now less than 10 meters away from his position. Although there is a row of CP9 blocking the front. But at this distance, no one can stop the 4 emperors. Shanks thought he was absolutely sure that he could subdue Ron immediately. And now it seems that all Marines are listening to this guy, as long as they catch him. Then you can directly threaten Marine. Shanks is looking for opportunities, waiting for the other party to reveal flaws. His eyes were fixed on Ron, but he noticed, this man is full of flaws. He didn't have any precautions at all, which meant that if he wanted to catch Ron, there were opportunities everywhere. This not only made Shanks feel a little confused, but usually the other party in this situation was either a strong person or a fool. Advertisement, even if it were an ordinary normal person, it would be impossible for him to be undefended. It's impossible to expose so many flaws. The bald man didn't even look at himself. His eyes and all his attention were focused on the battlefield in the middle. Dorag was already unable to protect himself at this moment, and he was already exhausted from dealing with Sengoku and Kizaru at the same time. Beckman said with a solemn expression, "Now, this guy himself didn't have much strength. Ron sent Momoshagi and captured her within a few rounds." "Ben Beckman, what was that sentence you didn't finish before?" "It was the woman who was wearing scantily clad clothes and waving flags." Ron was very dissatisfied that Sengoku and Kizaru had not yet taken down Dorag together. Without the buff bonus of waving the flag, it would be even less of an opponent. Even a wild horse that is difficult to tame is still afraid of a thick and long whip. Suddenly he said angrily, the tens of thousands of revolutionary troops brought over were almost completely surrounded and suppressed at this moment. But Hancock was so tired that he was sweating profusely and wet his chansam. "What are you two doing? Hurry up, can't you wait to see the next contestant? I give you 1 minute to resolve the battle." Hancock didn't dare to show off anymore. "Hancock, your battle is taking too long." Shanks was shocked when he heard this. At the same time, he also directed the battle on the entire battlefield. At that moment, he gritted his teeth and used all his strength to attack the human monster king. He started to direct without thinking about himself. 290 Hancock, who was suddenly called out, was shocked. After feeling Ron's attack on Whitebeard just now, Hancock was completely shocked. Ron is commanding the Marine to make the final clearing of the Revolutionary Army. Ron patted the chair, not paying any attention to Shanks next to him. Ron nodded with satisfaction. Galaxy winks. Marine achieved another stage victory, and the Revolutionary Army lost another member, Admiral. There are less than 3 levels of troops left. Boss, I am even more sure now that this bald man is definitely from the Yim clan. Mero Mello. After several fights, the Demon King was finally subdued. The entire Red Hair Pirates, less than 10 meters away from Ron, watched the bald head scold Admiral and the Marshal. Seeing his men being killed one by one, he was helpless. End it quickly. Today's Marine combat effectiveness is too high. Most of them have 1 to 2 levels of flowing water rock breaking fist skills. The Revolution is no match for them at all. Now there is only 1 army commander left in the entire Revolutionary Army. 130. Not allowing any pirates to leave live, besieging Shanks. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. At this moment, Shanks' expression changed. He had something to do with the world government. Therefore, few people understand the structure of world government as well as he does. He is well aware of the class relationships among the Celestial Dragons. There are 2 people in the Emu clan who are the current leaders of the Celestial Dragons. And the person in front of him is obviously not I am, if Ben Beckman's reasoning is correct. Then there is no doubt that this person is Im's brother. Damn it, is it that little monster? He has grown so big. If this guy doesn't just stay in Marijoy, why is he going downstairs? Shanks couldn't help but frown. He had great faith in Ben Beckman. This guy's deductions were never wrong. Shanks looked at Ron carefully and found that the face looked very familiar. It's just that he is bald now, so Shanks didn't recognize him for a while. This guy's facial profile is really similar to the guy I first saw when I went to Marineford 10 years ago. Thinking of this, Shanks couldn't help but take a breath. Suddenly I remembered that scene 10 years ago. At that time, he went to Marineford to do business with 5 elders, and once saw a little boy exercising with a 5,000-pound barbell near the high castle. It was at that time that he knew that this little boy was Ain's younger brother. At only 8 years old, he could easily lift a weight-bearing barbell weighing nearly 5,000 pounds, which really shocked Shanks at the time. The difference is that the boy has thick black hair. If you ignore the hair and take a closer look at the facial structure, you will see that it is 70% to 80% similar to the Inspector General in front of you. Hiss, Shanks couldn't help but take a breath. Now he could completely confirm that Ben Beckman's reasoning was correct. This guy really belongs to the Emu clan, and he is her biological brother. Thinking of this, Shanks instantly gave up the idea of staying here. I had actually tried to ask him to give me face before. Are you kidding me? This person is the most powerful person in the world today. Thinking about it now, what he did just now is really ridiculous. This is equivalent to a local gang leader running up to the president and asking him to give him face. How ridiculous. Whenever the president looks at him, he loses. No wonder the Inspector General didn't even look at him when he said those words. Shanks couldn't help but darken his face. He has changed his mind. It is not suitable to stay here for a long time. Although he is a 4 emperors, he does not want to have anything to do with I am. The lesson of rocks 40 years ago is still before us. Shanks is not so stupid. Shanks is a very smart man and a very current person. Advertisement: he can offend Marine, he can offend the world government, but he will never provoke I am. Luffy. Can't be saved. Rayleigh. Can't help either. You shouldn't come to this place. Thinking of this, Shanks immediately raised his hand, signaling his men not to attack. Boss. Why is this? They have already stepped on our faces. How can we not teach them a lesson? The fat chef said in confusion. Usopp also disagreed. We red hair pirates cannot be looked down upon by them. Ben Beckman frowned and said seriously. Listen to the boss, stop if you were told, and don't ask so many questions. Several other subordinates looked at each other. I didn't know what happened for a while. At this time, Shanks suddenly stood up and said, excuse me, just pretend we haven't been here, see you later. After Shanks finished speaking, he waved his hand and made a retreat gesture. Then he took everyone with him to leave, and at this time, Ron suddenly said, is this a place where you can come and leave whenever you want? Stop. As soon as he finished speaking, Ron suddenly stepped on the ground with his right foot. In an instant, huge force was transmitted directly to the ground. The entire land collapsed instantly. A bottomless ravine spread directly, starting from Ron's feet, and instantly extended in front of Shanks, dividing the world into 2. Blocking Shanks' path. The whole land shook a few times, and Shanks' expression changed involuntarily. Looking at the bottomless ravine in front of him, it was more than 10 meters wide. Is this something that can be stepped on with just 1 foot? Has this guy's strength reached this level? We have decided not to participate in this matter. Why should we be aggressive? Shanks frowned. If he hadn't guessed Ron's identity, he would have taken action by now. Ron just said calmly, it is impossible for any pirate to leave this island alive today. Now that you have set foot on this island, you can't treat anyone else. Daring to invade Marine is tantamount to trampling on the dignity of Marine and the dignity of justice. Ron will not allow anyone to leave alive after trampling on justice. Advertisement: his purpose in this battle is to annihilate all the pirates. This kick made the 3 Admiral, Sengoku and Garp stunned. 1 kick can crack the entire earth. This power is comparable to shock fruit. However, it was precisely because of this kick that Dorag was distracted, and then Sengoku and Kizaru caught an opportunity. Fighting us and diverting attention is not a wise move. Kizaru's mouth was crooked. He touched his chin and dodged directly behind Dorag, then turned around and kicked him. He kicked Dorag on the waist. Dorag was unable to defend himself and was kicked away on the spot. And Sengoku was already there. When Dolog flew over, he had already transformed into a giant Buddha, and a shockwave hit Dolog directly on the back of his head. He beat Dorag until he was stunned briefly, and then immediately used seastone handcuffs to subdue Dolog. Once the leader of the Revolutionary Army was captured, the momentum of the entire Revolutionary Army dropped to freezing point. In less than 20 minutes, they were surrounded and wiped out by Marine. At this point, the entire Summit War Whitebeard pirates and the Revolutionary Army were basically wiped out. And this time, Ron clapped his hands with satisfaction. Bartholomew Kuma was useless. The execution block is prepared for the immediate execution of Bartholomew Kuma. Stussy, bring Blackbeard to me. Ron issued 2 orders at the same time. Although Stussy didn't understand why Blackbeard was brought here, he didn't follow the order. Blackbeard had been captured by Sengoku before. At that time, Ron did not give an order and killed Blackbeard immediately, saying that it would be of great use. Only then did Blackbeard stay. At this moment, Blackbeard was escorted to Ron by Stussy. This was also the first time Blackbeard had looked at Ron so closely. What are you going to do? Blackbeard asked with a grin. If I remember correctly, you have the ability to extract devil fruit, right? Ron said coldly. Hearing this, Blackbeard couldn't help being shocked and looked at Ron in disbelief. He didn't tell anyone this secret. No one in the world knew that he had this ability except himself. How did this bald man know? Blackbeard was shocked when the secret in his heart was suddenly revealed. I do not understand what you're saying. Blackbeard shook his head. This kind of thing must never be admitted. This is his own secret. I'm not negotiating with you. For the recently deceased Esper, you can extract the devil fruit ability from his body. Although I don't know exactly what method you used, but now I ask you to extract Bartholomew Kuma's ability for me. Of course, you can also choose to go down and accompany him. Ron pointed in the direction of the execution platform. Advertisement: at this time, 2 executioners had just killed Bartholomew Kuma. The body was still warm. Hearing Ron's words, Sengoku and others were stunned. They didn't know Blackbeard had this ability. Even Shanks looked here in disbelief. How did you know? Blackbeard also knew that he could no longer stall. Hearing what the bald man meant, if he didn't do as he was told, the other party would kill him as well, so he asked incredulously. How'd I know? Do I need to tell you? Go ahead and give you a minute. Stussy, follow him, this devil fruit is for you. Ron said calmly. Stussy couldn't help but be stunned. She never expected that Ron would give this devil fruit to herself. You performed well today, and this is a reward for you. Stussy was so excited that she never expected Master Ron to be so generous. The meatball fruit is very powerful, it is simply the nemesis of all those with melee abilities. Thank you Sir Ron. Stussy knelt down on one knee excitedly and said. This further strengthened her determination to be loyal to Ron. Ron waved his hand. Blackbeard didn't dare to hide anything. He finally knew why Ron didn't kill him. It turned out to be useful. I don't know what method he used, but after some operations, he attached the ability of the recently deceased Bartholomew Kuma to a new fruit. After Stussy ate it, she gained the devil fruit ability. In the middle of the snow-white palm, pink flesh pads like cat's paws appeared. Extremely cute. Especially for a woman like Stussy, she is so cute. Stussy looked at Ron gratefully. At the same time, other Marines and government army members all looked at Stussy with envy. At the same time, I couldn't help but think that if you perform well, you can get such a good reward. It seems that I have to show off more in front of Lord Ron in the future. The Inspector General is a capable person, and having good things is a real reward. Shanks looked at the eyes of these Marines and couldn't help but take a breath. He sighed. This Ron is really good at buying people's hearts. Through a devil fruit, he bought the hearts and minds of the entire Marine and let them know that as long as they work hard, they will be rewarded. In this way, Marine and the World Government Army will definitely devote themselves more wholeheartedly in the future to the task. What a terrible method. Buying people's hearts, with clear rewards and punishments, has improved Marines' work enthusiasm. Congratulations on getting a silver treasure chest. At this moment, Ron received a system prompt. Sure enough, Ron couldn't help but smile. He guessed that there should be rewards for doing this. It seemed that he was right. Any operation that made Marine better would be rewarded greatly. Now, Ron turned around slowly. Shanks, you want to save face, right? Come on, I'll give it to you. 131. After saying, don't move, Kizaru raised his hands, but Ron interrupted them. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement 5 elders, fat. What's going on over there with Marineford? The 5 elders didn't go anywhere all day today. They all sat in the conference room and received the battle report from Marineford in real time. It has to be said that every time a battle report comes, the hearts of the 5 elders are tugged. It was so exciting. Things that they had never thought of before are now happening in Marineford. 10 minutes ago, Whitebeard died in battle, and the entire Whitebeard pirates instantly fell apart. The 4 emperors who once dominated the sea were killed so easily. 5 elders, Gao, couldn't help but said excitedly. That guy Dorag was also captured, and the entire revolutionary army was wiped out. 5 elders, face, has a serious old face, but a smile can't help but appear. I didn't expect that the revolutionary army that had been against our world government for so many years would be killed by Lord Ron. It's really shameful to say that we have not solved the problem for so long. Lord Ron has only been in the world for less than a month, and he was actually killed. Solved. The 5 elders, short, were also very excited and said, if we continue with this operation, I'm afraid the red-haired Shanks won't be able to leave there alive. Now, in Marineford, Ron snapped his fingers, and then all the Marine executives gathered around him. Shanks and his group were surrounded, and everything was blocked. All Marines' eyes turned to Shanks. Shanks couldn't help but frown. He said in a deep voice, give me some face, that's the end of today's affairs, just pretend we've never been here. Hear this. Ron couldn't help but laugh and stood up from the chair. Walking towards Shanks step by step, the CP9 in front separated 2 rows to make way for Ron. Ron walked through the middle and walked up to Shanks. Said, I really admire your persistence in saving face. Why don't you look at what the situation is now? How dare you worry about my saving face? Shanks' expression couldn't help but change, and he thought he had seen through everything and said, you have been fighting all day. Neither the Whitebeard pirates nor the revolutionary army are easy to mess with. Why don't you look at your men? Which one of them is not exhausted? And we are all in complete condition. If you start a battle with us at this time, do you think you can still keep us? After all, they are 4 emperors, so they still have this confidence and confidence. No matter how powerful Marine is, it cannot be a perpetual motion machine. People are tired. These Marine Admiral and Sengoku and others, including these Marine soldiers, have been fighting continuously for a whole day. Both Haki's level of consumption and the level of physical exertion are extremely high. Because the other party is not an ordinary person, the Whitebeard pirates and the Revolutionary Army cadres are all equally matched opponents to Marine. Every Marine Admiral present had tried their best during the battle, and their faces were all tired at the moment. Shanks didn't think they were capable of stopping him in their current state. These were the terms Shanks negotiated. Advertisement. Sure enough, when Shanks finished saying this, none of the other Marine Admirals refuted. Now their physical strength consumption is indeed huge. Haki has almost exhausted it. If they fight again, they can only use about 30% of their usual strength. It is basically impossible to stop the red hair pirates in this state. Ron just asked calmly, Kizaru, he said you were tired, are you tired? Kizaru was suddenly called and couldn't help being stunned. I looked around and saw that several other Marine Admirals were there too. All Marine senior executives have gathered here. Why don't you ask them? Why are you asking me? There are so many Marine high-level officials here. Even if you ask for a roll call, you can't just stick to me and do it for one person every time. You should be someone else. How do you want me to answer your question? In the entire Summit War, I contributed the most, killing at least 5 or 6 cadres, and I also killed Dorag just now. He also dealt with Whitebeard for such a long time. Of course I am very tired, I am already exhausted now. You ask this, how do you want me to answer? Can I say that I am very tired? Then you have to come up and kick me away, you don't bully people like this, right? Kizaru was really speechless, he could only touch his chin and then said against his conscience. Daughter, you not tired? Ah yes, you're not. When Kizaru finished saying this, Akainu and Aokiji both rolled their eyes at him, despising Kizaru's behavior of telling lies with his eyes open. Kizaru glared back angrily, as if to say, what are you looking at? If the Inspector General asked you, I don't believe you wouldn't answer like this. Now that his name has been called, Kizaru was embarrassed to stand far away. Then it turned into a stream of light and came directly in front of Shanks and his group. However, at this moment, suddenly, the gun was pointed at himself. Don't move, Kizaru. It's Ben Beckman. He was seen holding a pistol, holding a cigarette sideways, and aimed at Kizaru's head very coolly. This made Kizaru stunned, he said with a crooked mouth. Ben Beckman. Kizaru subconsciously raised his hands. At this time, wait, that's not right. After Kizaru instinctively raised his hands, he suddenly felt a sharp gaze looking at him. Advertisement, I couldn't help but feel a chill running down my spine. I secretly said something bad. I just raised my hands out of habit. I can't blame myself, it must be muscle memory. They had fought against the Red Hair Pirates before, and that time, when Ben Beckman pointed a gun at Kizaru, Kizaru simply raised his hands and surrendered. He wasn't really afraid of the gun, just because this way you don't have to fight, you can pretend to be controlled, and you can catch a fish by the way. So this time, due to instinctive muscle memory, Kizaru didn't go through his brain at first. When he heard the 3 words, don't move, he raised his hand smoothly. Just when he raised his hand, his brain reacted instantly and secretly said something was wrong. He had forgotten that the Inspector General was nearby. At the same time, Ling's eyes lightning was also felt. It's over now. Kizaru's heart was in his throat, his damn muscle memory, and now he had no way to explain it. In this situation, I raised my hands. According to the Inspector General's supervision standards, I was 100% in violation. It's over. Kizaru took a deep breath, turned his neck with difficulty, and looked in Ron's direction. As expected, he found that Ron's eyes were very unhappy and he was staring at him coldly. Kizaru wants to cry but has no tears. Summer War has always been careful not to make mistakes, but I didn't expect that I would soon get through Summer War. As a result, at the end, I made another small mistake. He was so close to holding on, damn it, what to do now? Sure enough, at this time, Ron suddenly said angrily. Kizaru, what are you doing, guy? As a Marine Admiral, you actually raised both hands. Are you going to surrender? Asterisk. A broken gun is pointed at you, and you do such an embarrassing thing to me. You are a sparkling fruit user. You are the fastest and can be scared by a gun. What threat can this gun pose to you? Don't tell me that with your knowledge, color and speed, you can't dodge bullets? Ron's voice became heavier and his tone became colder. This guy is still embarrassing himself here. The dignified Marine Admiral, when the two armies were facing each other, was forced by the opponent's general to raise his hands. It's just too much. As a senior general, he would rather die on the battlefield than do such a shameful thing. This is the whole Marine team. Of course Ron wouldn't allow this to happen. Immediately, he pushed the red-haired Shanks away and came straight to Kizaru. Advertisement Shanks looked confused. Has anyone noticed me? Do I, 4 emperors, have no face? Treat me as if I don't exist. At this moment, Kizaru was breaking out in cold sweat and the wrinkles on his face were flattened with fear. His face was pale, his hand immediately dropped. Point 0. At this moment, all the Marines were looking at this, and everyone in the Shanks Pirates also looked at Ron in confusion. They didn't know what Ron was going to do. Wasn't he still confronting him? Why did he suddenly turn around and walk towards his Marine Admiral? What is he going to do? And his expression seems a little unhappy. Inspector General, Kizaru immediately opened Shichibukai and explained. However, Ron came to Kizaru and didn't listen to his explanation at all. He punched Kizaru in the arm without hesitation. Just hear a click. Kizaru's 2 arms were directly broken. Since you love to surrender so much, let me give you a longer memory. Every time you raise your hand in the future, you will think of this feeling of broken bones. This is because you have contributed a lot to the Summer War, so I will spare your life. If there is a next time. Ron's voice was very calm. After saying this, he patted Hiroyuki on the shoulder. Kizaru endured the pain in his arms and couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, he only had 2 broken arms. I will never raise my hands again. Kizaru quickly expressed his stance. This move instantly dumbfounded Red Hair Pirates. They never expected that at such a critical moment, the Inspector General would break the arm of his main combat force. And the reason turned out to be just that he raised his hands to surrender to the pirates. Shanks couldn't help but be stunned. He really didn't understand. The opponent's combat power was obviously very low and he was exhausted. At this time, he was cutting off an admiral. Is he crazy? After Ron dealt with all this to all the Red Hair Pirates said. Excuse me, deal with the disobedient subordinates. Where were we talking about just now? Ah, yes, you seem to be saying that my people are exhausted after a day of fighting and don't have the physical strength to stop you, right? Shanks frowned and said, yes, and now you are missing a Marine Admiral. The other main combat forces must not have much physical strength after a day of fierce fighting, right? Ron said calmly. Oh, who said my admiral has no physical strength? Ron looked at the bag of fairy beans that had just been opened from the silver treasure chest in his hand and said this. Endless bag of fairy beans, instantly restore physical strength. Shanks looked disdainful. He couldn't see the knife even if he had the physical strength. 132. Kill Shanks with 1 punch and rely on Jack the Ship King to save Brother Ming. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement Shanks had a look of disdain on his face. Don't be kidding, do you think I can't feel it? They're all very tired. I'm afraid we don't have much physical strength left at this time. What can we do against us? Are you going to do it in person? After many rounds of battles, these marine admirals were indeed exhausted, and Sengoku was also out of breath. After all, they are dealing with the strongest people in the world. If you can win, it's already great. It's normal for your physical strength to be exhausted. This is why Shanks is so confident. Ron looked at Shanks' disdainful expression and said with a smile. There is no need for me to take action myself now. After all, they don't have a lot of physical strength. Hearing Ron's words, Shanks snorted coldly, thinking that Ron was just talking nonsense. It's just a tough talk. After all, his observation Haki can already feel that these marine admirals have little physical strength now. And the Inspector General refused to admit it, however, at this moment. Ron said to Kizaru, Kizaru, here's your chance to atone for your sins. Didn't that guy just point a gun at you? Go ahead and kill him. Kizaru had both broken arms and was standing there waiting for the medical soldiers to bandage him. He never expected that at this time, Supervisor 467 would actually ask him to fight again. Kizaru's face darkened and he was speechless. My arm is broken, and you still let me go to work. You're not such a bully, are you? You should let the other two admirals go. Besides, I have contributed the most in the entire summer war, but now I am exhausted and really have no strength left. And both arms were broken. I'm afraid I can't beat Ben Beckman at this time. Isn't it embarrassing for you to force me to go up? Kizaru shook his two broken arms and then said helplessly. Inspector General, let's just ask, is it possible that I am a wounded soldier and no longer fit to continue fighting? Shanks couldn't help laughing when he heard this. You broke his arm and then asked him to fight. Even if he was zoned, he wouldn't be able to recover his physical strength and injuries so quickly. Although he didn't say it clearly, Shanks' expression at this moment seemed to be saying, what do you want Kizaru to fight us with? At this time, Ron waved to Kizaru. Then he reached in and pulled out a bag. This is the endless bag of fairy beans that was just opened from the silver treasure chest. Ron took out a fairy bean from the bag and threw it to Kizaru. Eat it and complete the mission. Advertisement, Ron just said calmly. This move made everyone else look at this place in confusion. What is this bean? If you take out a bean at this time, what is it used for? Ben Beckman was also confused. He didn't recognize what it was at all. Kizaru didn't know either, but he had no choice. The Inspector General asked him to eat it, and he didn't dare not eat it. When Kizaru ate this bean, he instantly felt that his whole body had returned to normal. Kizaru, who was already exhausted and had no physical strength at all, felt full of energy in an instant. The fatigue from the previous battle was wiped away, and the whole person returned to his peak state. What's even more frightening is that the broken arm suddenly healed. Kizaru raised his hand in disbelief. The wrinkles on his face became more dense, and he said with a look of disbelief. Inspector General, is this? Am I hallucinating? It's so scary. You're just hallucinating. Hurry up and carry out your mission. Ron gave Kizaru a slap and kicked him out. Shanks and Ben Beckman watched helplessly as Kizaru's arm returned to normal, and he became much more energetic. It can even be felt through the color of sight and smell that their state has been restored. Ben Beckman, I have suffered a lot because of you. Kizaru's expression changed, and then he rushed directly towards Ben Beckman. It was this guy who caused the old man to have his hand broken. Several laser beams were fired directly at Ben Beckman. It was so sudden, Ben Beckman almost didn't react. Start responding quickly. Sensing something bad, the fat chef immediately prepared to support Ben Beckman. Then the three people started to fight fiercely. Akainu and Aokiji couldn't help but gasp when they saw Kizaru's fighting state. The two of them have also experienced the battle just now, so it is very clear that there is not much left in this calendar. There is absolutely no way he can be in a fighting state like Kizaru's. At this time, Ron threw two more fairy beans to Akainu and Aokiji. Then he said, quick victory. Yes, Akainu took it without hesitation and found that his physical strength recovered in an instant. Back to peak form, he immediately joined the battlefield and fought against the fat chef. Seeing this, Aokiji also ate the fairy beans and fought with Jinbu. Shanks was confused. He originally thought that since Marine Admiral had lost his physical strength, he still had a certain advantage. But I never expected that the other party's condition would be so good. What's going on? Is it because of the bean? Advertisement? Is it so magical? Well, I'll just say they still have physical strength. Ron said calmly. Shanks had a dark look on his face. It was really unbelievable. Who would have thought that this group of Marine Admiral, after fighting Whitebeard, fought with the Revolutionary Army, but now they still have the physical strength to fight with him? Isn't this too pervert? Ron glanced at Sengoku and asked. Would you like one? Sengoku was stunned for a moment. He was really curious and couldn't believe that this thing really had such a great effect, so he said. Then, give me one to try. So Sengoku picked one up and put it in his mouth. Sure enough, he regained his strength in an instant. This left Sengoku so surprised that he was speechless. At the same time, I started to think about it in my mind. If Marine had this thing, wouldn't it mean that when fighting in the future, as long as you are tired and have no physical strength, you can just eat a bean, and then immediately return to the top and be yourself? What is this? Sengoku was surprised and asked curiously. Ron said calmly. Snickers. Sengoku muttered. Is that the original name? The strength of the three admirals at full status is naturally a little stronger than the cadres of red hair pirates. After several battles, the opponent could no longer hold on. And Sengoku has also joined the battle. Now, all the cadres of the red hair pirates are facing a powerful siege by Marine. At this moment, they finally realized the despair of the Whitebeard pirates at that time. The red-haired Shanks frowned and said coldly, in this case, you don't have anyone to protect you. So, haven't you noticed that I'm so close to you? Shanks had also been approaching Ron intentionally or unintentionally just now. After all, he is also very smart and knows that there is no other way to leave Ma Lin at this time. And he knew Ron's identity. Therefore, catching Ron at this time is the only chance to leave here. Marine didn't dare risk sacrificing his brother and continued to attack him. Moreover, it seems that this bald man is just stronger and his strength should be average. After all, Shanks had never seen Ron take action with his own eyes. The only thing he remembered was Ron's kick just now. Maybe I've been waiting for you to get close. Ron turned around, looked at Shanks, and said calmly. Shanks' face darkened. Today, Ron is only a knife's throw away from him. Without hesitation, he drew his knife and covered it with Conqueror's Haki and then slashed at Ron. Because the distance was too close, the knife struck Ron directly on the head. Suddenly, the entire sky was split into two. As expected of the four emperors, being able to split the sky seemed to be their standard feature. In an instant, a strong wind blew up and a knife cut through the sky, carrying a huge force from top to bottom. Advertisement seeing this scene, Sengoku wanted to stop him, but he was still a step too late. CP9 was closest to Ron, but when they were about to go up, they found Ron making a gesture to them. Let them stand there, so I can only obey the order and watch Shanks slash with the knife. The other members of the Shanks pirates also watched this scene. Great, boss succeeded. These marine admirals have indeed been deceived and have been lured away from home by us. They don't even know it yet. Actually, our real purpose was to get the boss close to this bald man from the beginning. As long as we catch him, everything will be over. However, in their expectations, Shanks' knife was less than 10 centimeters away from Ron. Suddenly stopped. While everyone looked at him in disbelief, Ron held the blade directly between his two fingers. Shanks' expression changed drastically because he found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull the knife out. The strength of your move is not even close to that of Whitebeard. No wonder, after all, you only have one arm. Ron shook his head. Shanks' expression at this moment is as ugly as he can be. Now, it's my turn. Ron finished speaking, 4.0. A sharp punch hit Shanks directly in the stomach. There is nothing fancy about this punch. It didn't produce any exaggerated effect, it was just an ordinary punch. There wasn't even a wave rising. However, at this moment, Shanks felt that all the bones in his body were falling apart, and he spit out a mouthful of blood. Looking at Ron's fist in disbelief, even Haki is useless? Several other cadres were also confused. It seemed like an ordinary punch, but why did the boss fall? Later, under the joint encirclement and suppression by several other admirals, these thousands of troops were all killed. The entire Summit War ended with Marine's complete victory. Clean up the battlefield and hold a commendation meeting later. Take Doflamingo and you guys will go to Punk Hazard with me tomorrow to solve the king problem there. Ron said to the three Admiral and Sengoku, after all, Punk Hazard must be given an explanation, so Marine senior management should try their best to take it. The problems that Doflamingo has caused to this country in the past 10 years should also be solved. At this time, on the way back to Ghost Island, Kaido suddenly asked. Where's that idiot Jack? Why haven't you seen him? Jin said coldly. When he separated from Shanks, the guy sailed away alone, saying he wanted to save Doflamingo. 133. Post-war commendation meeting. Kizaru becomes a model. Ron escorts Ming Jae. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The Summit War that shocked the entire pirate world is finally over. This peak battle between pirates and Marines ended with Marines' victory. On this night, reports on the results of the Summit War spread to every corner of the world through newspaper front page headlines. I have to say that Morgans is very aware of current affairs, and there is no weirdness in this report. Instead, it spends a lot of time introducing the detailed details of this battle. This night is destined to be a sleepless night. The whole world was shocked by this news. Although the entire scene was not transmitted through live broadcast this time. Except for the world government, no one else knows the details inside. And this newspaper is their only channel to learn the facts. At this moment, ordinary citizens all over the world are running around telling each other with newspapers in their hands. The joy on his face was beyond words. Good news, Marine has won a great victory and wiped out the Whitebeard pirates. Come and watch. Really? That's impossible. That's Whitebeard. Can what is said in the newspaper be false? Come and see, there are pictures. The person who got the newspaper first immediately shouted excitedly to the people who hadn't read the newspaper yet. Some believed it, some didn't believe it, and everyone rushed forward and surrounded him. Everyone put down their work and couldn't wait to know everything. The same scene was played out almost simultaneously in the entire world. Alabasta. The people here should be the first to come into contact with Ron, so they're the first to change their views on Marine. At this moment, they looked at the newspapers in their hands and couldn't help but feel very excited. That's great. It must be the work of the Inspector General, only he has such courage, 15 inches. Yes, since I killed Crocodile, I have seen that the Inspector General really wants to rectify Marine and rebuild Marine's prestige. Is it really hard to believe that a monster like Whitebeard has been defeated? Not just him, but the revolutionaries and the red-haired Shanks. In other words, Marine killed 2 4 emperors in the Revolutionary Army at the same time. I can't even imagine how brutal the battle was at that time. Marine is really great. I don't know how Princess Vivi is doing in Marine now. When can she come back? Don't worry, the Inspector General will not treat her badly. The Fishmen Island. Kami excitedly held the newspaper and said to the Prince of Dragon Palace who came to patrol. It was him who saved me from the Celestial Dragons. This guy is the Marine Inspector General. Advertisement. Kami excitedly recounted Ron's deeds at the Sabaody archipelago. The Prince of the Dragon Palace listened with great interest, and then returned to the Dragon Palace and told all this to Neptune. This couldn't help but attract Neptune's attention. He himself wants to establish an equal relationship with humans, and hopes that one day, mermaids or fishmen can move to the water to live. There is no need to live in hiding under this deep sea. This is also the dream of Princess Odahime, but Neptune does not have a suitable contact person, so he cannot advance the document matter. But after he heard about the Inspector General's deeds and read today's battle report, he felt that this person should be just. If she can get in touch with him, maybe Princess Odahime's dream will truly come true. Kaido of the Beasts couldn't help but take a breath as he held the newspaper. I didn't expect that guy Whitebeard to die in that place. This guy Shanks is really unlucky. Kaido remembered that when he fought with Shanks, luckily he was careful and did not go to the Marine headquarters. Speaking of which, I would like to thank Shanks. If he hadn't stopped me, I'm afraid I would have gone to Marineford. What will happen then, I really don't know. But what happened there? Why did the 2-4 emperors die there? It's impossible, and there's that guy Dorag here, so it's even more impossible. Kaido held the newspaper in his hand and couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Hurry up and call that guy Jack back and stop causing trouble outside. Lousy always feels that it's not peaceful outside recently. Kaido put down the newspaper and said in a deep voice. Cake Island, the ant held the newspaper and frowned. After a moment, he burst into laughter. Mama. That's really interesting. What happened there? After all, Big Mom and Kaido are both 4 emperors, so they know the strength of the 4 emperors very well. If Marine can deal with 4 emperors with ease, then it will be a bit difficult to deal with 2 at the same time, if revolution is added to the mix. If Marine wanted to annihilate them all, it would be impossible. So what exactly happened? This made Big Mom and Kaido extremely curious. Compared to the sensation it caused in the world. The naval headquarters is relatively quiet at the moment. Everyone is organizing the battlefield in an orderly manner. Various injured people were also carried down for treatment in a timely manner. For some serious cases, Ron distributed celestial beans for treatment. Okay, this battle has just ended, let's have a meeting while everyone hasn't left yet. Ron directly called all the Marine executives and said. Sengoku was a little confused. Advertisement? Now? Meeting here? This is a battlefield. It's a mess. We just finished fighting here. It's not good to have a meeting here. After all, they're all Marine senior executives. Don't they always hold meetings in that magnificent conference hall? When has a meeting ever been held in such a dilapidated place? Ron frowned and said to Sengoku, why, isn't it good to be here? As Marine senior leaders, you must never be separated from the masses or the grassroots soldiers. This battle is fought by everyone together, so the commendation meeting should be held here with everyone. Rather than a few Marine executives sitting in an office receiving praise. The commendation conference belongs to all Marines, and the credit belongs to all Marines, not just you guys, do you understand? Ron spoke very softly, but many Marines present heard it. At this moment, they couldn't help but cast grateful glances at Ron. The victory of any battle was never considered by ordinary soldiers. The credit is always given to a few Marine senior executives. Any commendation activities are directly skipped over them and held directly at the top level within Marine. It seemed like a victory that was bought with the blood of soldiers, but it became a carnival within Marine's top brass. But I didn't expect that at this time, the Inspector General would think of them and be willing to hold a commendation meeting for them. Sengoku was a little ashamed when Ron said that. It was indeed like that before. At this time, Ron directly found a place to sit down. Then he waved his hand and motioned for everyone to sit down together. So, all Marine senior officials, including Marine Admiral and Marine Marshal, plus all Marine soldiers. Sit directly on the floor. He just sat down on the ruins of this war. The originally high-level meeting now became very down-to-earth. The distance between Marine executives and soldiers was instantly shortened. This made the Marine soldiers feel a lot closer. Ron sat slightly higher, so everyone could see him. So Ron said, to summarize briefly, everyone performed well in this summer war. Starting from tomorrow, we will give everyone 3 days of vacation and bonuses. Everyone, please take a good rest and go back to spend time with your family. All of you are Marines heroes. After Ron said this, the audience burst into warm applause, which could not subside for a long time. Advertisement 5 elders, short, took a deep breath and said. After arranging this matter, 5 elders, fat, couldn't help but become nervous when he saw the phone ringing. Smoker, you drive the Pluton and send these 8,000 escort troops back to Marijoy. These escorts were also very excited. After all, being able to take a ride on the ancient weapon Pluton was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Master Ron, congratulations to Master Ron for your great victory. I, a usually bastard, never expected that I would be honored as a model warrior. Kizaru looked confused. Ron's tone suddenly became stern and reminded him. Ron took Marine 3 Admiral and Marshal Sengoku to escort Doflamingo to Dressrosa. Now that the summer war is over, 283 can let them go back. Ron said directly. Relying on this method, all the secret bases of the Revolutionary Army deployed around the world were discovered. They are all ordinary revolutionary troops. There are no powerful characters. Most of them are secret sentries lurking around the world. 5 elders, fat, couldn't help but be stunned, and then immediately responded, yes. Afterwards, Ron gave some awards according to his merits. Don't be polite. Ron took out the phone bug and dialed 5 elders' number. Although they didn't say it with their mouths, they would inevitably think about the answer to the question, so when Ron asked about the location, they thought of that place, and then the feng shui compass pointed out the direction. After all, the government troops have always been dishonest in their affairs, and it often happens that they line their own pockets. On a piece of gravel, I finished receiving the award in embarrassment. The Combat Exemplary Medal is hereby awarded as a reward. I would like to give special praise to Kizaru. In this summer war, he killed the most enemies. Just take someone to clean them up. Entertain them well along the way. After all, they're here to help. Don't treat them badly. Go and do a few things. At the addresses I gave you, let the government troops go and clear out the revolutionary troops here. This is the information Ron just found out from the Revolutionary Army. Although they were very tough, Ron put the feng shui compass in their hands before asking questions. The next morning, because there are also some Marijoy escorts here. This made Kizaru, a shameless person, feel a little embarrassed at this moment. 5 elders quickly assured, I dare not, my subordinates will strictly supervise. All the arrangements have been made, and Hanan took a rest for one night. Smoker nodded immediately. By the way, let your people do things cleanly and don't do anything that violates discipline for me, do you understand? A plaque of the exemplary medal was hung around Kizaru's neck. 134. Jack. Who do you think I am? Pull the boat over. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. At this moment, the entire people of Dressrosa still don't know the truth of the matter. Most people here are unaware of Doflamingo's crimes. The whole of Dressrosa has been living in false prosperity. All those who oppose Doflamingo have basically become toys. This ability is quite terrifying. After being turned into a toy, he will disappear from everyone's memory, as if this person does not exist. Relying on this pervert fruiting ability, Doflamingo established a seemingly prosperous Dressrosa. In fact, underground in Dressrosa is an extremely dark scene. Countless opponents were turned into toys here, working hard day after day and treated like slaves. Being abused, there is no hope. Moreover, arms trading is carried out underground all year round. This matter has been done very covertly and has not been discovered for so many years. The small humans who have been living here have also been controlled by Doflamingo's methods. Being squeezed continuously in the Smile Factory. This factory is responsible for producing the raw materials for artificial devil fruit. It is a very important source of materials for Kaido. Therefore, Doflamingo is an important middleman for Kaido. This is why Jack went to rescue Doflamingo as soon as he knew he was caught. And at this moment, the Doflamingo family leaders are waiting on the dock to welcome their young master back. They don't know yet that Doflamingo has been captured by Marine. After all, Doflamingo was invited by Marine before. So, the Summit War was a complete victory this time, and the cadres of these families thought that Doflamingo had made a contribution. And hearing that Marine personally sent them back, these cadres waited at the dock early, preparing to prepare a grand welcoming ceremony for their young master. So now they are all waiting here, at the same time. A warship departed from the Marine headquarters and was heading towards Dressrosa. Originally, Ron's car was the Pluton, but Ron arranged for this ship to be sent to the government escort yesterday. Haven't come back today, so Ron found a warship and took it temporarily to Dressrosa. At this moment, on the deck of the warship, the 3 Marine Admirals were standing here, and Brother Doflamingo was imprisoned in Okura. Sengoku and Ron were talking in the back. You mean the old king of Dressrosa was framed? No wonder I felt something was wrong before. How could that guy kill his own citizens? It turned out to be Doflamingo. Advertisement. Sengoku suddenly understood. Ron told Sengoku everything. At this moment, Sengoku was furious. If Ron hadn't told him, he wouldn't have known that Dressrosa had gone through this. This time, Sengoku understood why Ron captured Doflamingo. This guy committed such a serious crime and must be severely punished. Nowadays, due to the existence of Doflamingo, the entire Dressrosa is in darkness. This is a huge mistake by Marine. If this matter is not dealt with properly, how can Marine have the face to talk about justice? Even Sengoku now has doubts about the Shichibukai system. Sure enough, pirates are all wolves who have not been raised well. Sometimes we really can't tell whether we are using them or they're using us. Sengoku couldn't help but sigh. Originally, the Shichibukai system was to allow Marine or world government to use Shichibukai's battle history for free. Who would have thought that Shichibukai would take advantage of the legal plunder qualifications given by this world government to do all kinds of evil? Ron smiled and then said, that's right, so it's a joke that Marine and pirates cooperate. One is a thief and the other is a policeman. They are not of my race, so their hearts must be different. How is it possible to expect pirates and Marines to have the same heart? So, there is no need for the Shichibukai system to exist at all. We just took this opportunity to announce the cancellation of the Shichibukai system. Sengoku nodded. This time he understood Ron's decision. However, this decision was made by the world government at the time. We don't seem to have the right to cancel it directly. Do we still need to discuss it with the world government? Ron shook his head and said indifferently, there is no need to discuss it with them, they don't dare to have any opinions. Sengoku couldn't help but take a breath when he heard this. Although he didn't know Ron's specific identity, judging from Ron's behavior in the past few days, it seemed that the 5 elders also wanted to see his face. So he continued to ask, what about Haki and Empress Hancock? They made a lot of contributions in this Summit War. If there was no system like Shichibukai, what would the 2 of them do? In fact, Sengoku never realized that he had to ask Ron for help when he encountered any problems without even realizing it. This would have been impossible before, because Marine, as the marshal, only needed to make the final decision on most matters. Don't worry, these 2 guys have been subdued. Let them be Marine consultants and incorporate them into your own system. These 2 guys are not heinous people and can be used by us, Ron calmly said. Sengoku nodded. At this moment, Sengoku suddenly looked into the distance. Ron looked at Sengoku's unusual behavior and couldn't help but look in that direction. Advertisement. Nothing at all. As far as the eye can see, there is nothing but the sea. At this time, Sengoku suddenly said, somebody is coming. Sengoku's observation Haki is naturally very powerful, and he instantly felt someone approaching, and he was also a hostile person. Sengoku knew that Ron did not know how to observe Haki, so he explained. My observation Haki, I just noticed a hostility in that direction. Oh, by the way, there are many types of observation Haki. Some can detect the strength of the opponent's aura, some can sense the opponent's mood, some can judge the opponent's attack method, and some can briefly foresee the future. Everyone is good at something different. I am good at sensing other people's emotions, so I noticed a hostility in the distance. It should be someone from the Kaido pirates. Because Sengoku is very close to Ron, when Sengoku uses observation Haki, Ron suddenly captures this energy. Although he didn't know how to observe Haki before, at this moment, when he captured this energy at such a close range. The mystery was immediately analyzed, so this is observation Haki. Ron couldn't help but feel happy. His physique was really very perceptive. After carefully recalling the energy fluctuation, Ron closed his eyes lightly. The next moment, the whole body instantly adapted to this feeling. Then, with Ron as the center, a burst of pure energy suddenly burst out, which was observation Haki. And it's thicker than Sengoku's. Ron could clearly feel everything around him at this moment, and in the direction Sengoku pointed, a pirate ship clearly appeared in his mind. Sengoku only relied on experience and judged that it should be the ship of Beast's pirates. In fact, he did not have these images in his mind. But Ron is different, his observation Haki is higher than Sengoku. At this moment, there was a picture in my mind. I saw a strong man standing on the deck, letting the strong wind blow on his face and the waves crashing. He didn't mind, but he still stood on the bow of the ship very arrogantly. It's Jack the Drow. This guy really can't escape this fate. Ron, of course, immediately guessed what this guy was here for. He must be here for Doflamingo. Sengoku couldn't help but be shocked. He was closest to Ron, so he naturally felt that Ron was using observation Haki just now, and his level was higher than his own. He actually saw the person he couldn't see directly. I just said these few words, have you understood observation Haki? It's so irritating to see people compare to each other. Sengoku couldn't help but sigh, remembering that when he practiced observation Haki, he suffered a lot. I didn't expect that this Inspector General would be able to use it once. Advertisement, no wonder they're strong since then. Ron finally mastered Conqueror's Haki. Since coming to the lower realm, my progress has been really fast. Then, Ron opened the property list. Name, Ron. Physique, One Punch Man Physique, 55.1%, Ability, Advanced Medical Ninjutsu, Top Conqueror's Haki, Top Armament Haki, Top Observation Haki. Props, Feng Shui Compass, Treasure Book Box, Nano Battlesuit, Infinite Fairy Beanbag. Item, Nanosuit Design Drawing, Mass Production Version. Influence, 61,251, Number of Marines changed by Ron, 10 qualified Chinese plus 10 points of influence. Resolve the incident. Restore the Marine's reputation in the Alabasta incident. Intimidate Shichibukai. Rectify Smoker's troops. Execute Spandam and his son. Subdue CP9. Untie Aokiji's heart knot. Punish Garp for his betrayal. Show off his authority. Clear rewards and punishments to win over the morale of the army. At this moment, Jack's ship has appeared in sight. And getting closer and closer. This is an extremely large ship, even larger than a marine warship. The head of the entire ship is inlaid with a hued ivory, which looks very fierce. At this moment, Jack is standing on the bow of the boat. He looked at Ron and others' warship with fierce eyes. Then he said to his subordinates, is Doflamingo on this warship? A man with a gorilla on his hand said, that's right, that's the information we got. Jack nodded excitedly and said, that's just right, since we encountered him, we can only blame him for being unlucky and prepare to fight. As soon as Jack finished saying this, the real man in the country suddenly dropped the telescope on the ground. He was the sentry responsible for observing the enemy's situation. When he saw the lineup on the ship, he was so frightened that he dropped his telescope hand. Jack glared at him fiercely, you look like you have never seen the world. Is this your first time to rob a warship? Follow me from now on, and you will gradually get used to it. Lousy often robs them, so don't be afraid. Captain Jack, that ship is full of Marines, let's not get too close, right? Marine Admiral and Marine Marshal are both up there, and the bald guy is also there. We can't afford to offend the captain. Do you want to inform the 10 Kaidos first? Unexpectedly, the words deeply stimulated Jack, and he slapped him. Then he roared angrily. Who do you think Lousy is? Pull the boat over. 135. 3 Admiral Instant Jack, the reckless man felt happy for a while, and finished the crematorium. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement, report, enemy pirate ship found ahead. At this time, Marines lookout soldiers immediately reported. At the highest position on each warship, that is, above the sails, a lookout will be arranged for 24-hour surveillance. Under normal circumstances, it is basically the lookouts who discover the enemy's situation first. But this time it's different. After all, the people standing below are all Marine senior executives. Including the 3 Admirals and Marine Marshal Sengoku, with their observation Haki, they must have discovered it before the observers discovered it. At this time, these people stood together and looked into the distance together. Kizaru touched his chin, he said with a confused look on his face. What is this guy doing? Akainu frowned and said with a very unkind expression. Is this guy coming to attack us, or do they have an ambush? After all, he really didn't believe that the purpose of the pirate group at this time was to come to save people. This is too disrespectful to take them seriously. Aokiji shook his head and said, I suspect they're coming for us. Is this the only ship in total? Sengoku nodded, and then said, it is true that no other ships were found, and it is not ruled out that they have hidden themselves. Perhaps this ship is used to lure the enemy. They must have other plans. Sengoku isn't sure either. After all, according to normal people's thinking, they should have seen them on the ship through the telescope by now. Therefore, it is unlikely that the idea of hijacking the ship will arise. This ship looks familiar. Who is the one under Kaido? It seems to be the one with the lowest bounty. Kizaru said while touching his chin. It's Jack the Drow. Akainu glared at Kizaru angrily and said. Aokiji. It seems like they are really coming towards us. It doesn't look like they're passing by here. What are the Kaido pirates doing? Sengoku put his hands behind his back and looked at the pirate ship rushing towards here. Said. What the Inspector General means is that he should be here to rescue Doflamingo. Oh, so there is some relationship between the Kaido pirates and Doflamingo? Akainu suddenly said after hearing what Sengoku said. Yes, the Inspector General just told me that the relationship between Doflamingo and Kaido is really close. Sengoku repeated what Ron told him just now. This shocking news made the 3 admirals present feel incredible. They didn't get any information about such a secret matter, but they didn't expect that the Inspector General knew everything about it. How did he know? 3 Admiral looked at Ron sitting on the chair at the same time and found that the man was drinking tea leisurely. Advertisement. Ron saw the other 3 people looking at him, as if he suddenly remembered something. He immediately waved to this side. Aokiji, come here for a moment. Hearing this, Aokiji couldn't help but be startled, glanced at the two colleagues next to him, and walked over without knowing why. I thought I had something important to do for me. So he acted like he was listening very carefully. After the Summit War, Aokiji admired Ron very much. Therefore, at this time, I acted like I was all ears. However, what he never expected was that, Ron said to him next. The tea is too hot, I'll chill it. Phew. Aokiji almost fell down and was speechless. Did you think it was a big deal, Boss Jack? Isn't it good for us to do this? The 3 admirals are all here. If we just rush over like this, I'm afraid. Another real person came over to dissuade him. Jack's expression was very bad. He stood on the bow of the boat and grabbed the real guy and threw him into the sea. Then he said to his men, "Who do you think I am? I am Lord Jack, rush over to me. Just hit them with the boat. Whoever advises me, just throw it into the sea." Jack immediately gave the order. However, at this moment, the phone bug in his arms suddenly rang. Jack frowned. Then he answered the phone. Jin's voice came from over there. "Where have you been, you idiot? Master Kaido asked you to come back quickly." Jack snorted angrily. "Wait for me to surprise Kaido-sama. Don't worry, I will go back soon, and brother Jin, don't call me a fool again." Lousy is 28 years old, Jin said, very unhappy. "What surprise? Don't cause trouble for Master Kaido. The situation outside is very chaotic now, so don't cause trouble everywhere." Jack said proudly, "I found the ship escorting Doflamingo. Right now in front of me. You should know how much Kaido-sama cares about the Smile Factory. Don't worry, Mr. Kaido, this matter will be taken care of by me, Jack." Jack's expression was very proud at the moment, as if he had imagined that after finishing this matter, Kaido would reward him. Jin was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect that the escort ship was actually encountered by this guy. "Hey, don't be impulsive. Look at who is responsible for escorting, and then decide whether to take action or not. Do you hear me? Don't be impulsive." Jin was relatively sensible, but he really couldn't trust this reckless man, so he warned him again and again. But it was obvious that Jack didn't take it to heart. "Don't worry, I'll leave as soon as I finish robbing everyone. Just wait for my good news." Advertisement zizizi, the call was hung up. Hey. Lousy asked you who is responsible for escorting? Jin said angrily. "This idiot dares to hang up on me and wait until he comes back to see if I don't deal with him." Jin said cursingly. At this moment, the Kaido pirates have just arrived at Onigashima. Kaido asked, "Hey, what's going on?" Jin said with a confused look. "That guy Jack seems to have discovered the warship escorting Doflamingo. He wants to rescue Doflamingo and give you a surprise, boss. But when I asked him who was responsible for the escort, he actually hung up the phone. I was afraid that he would cause some big trouble. BFCD. Kaido snorted coldly, "As long as that idiot doesn't scare me. It shouldn't be escorted by some big shot, otherwise that guy wouldn't be stupid enough to rush over." Kaido thought for a while and put the matter behind him. Jin always had a bad feeling, but he didn't take it to heart. After all, it's just a Shichibukai Doflamingo. Marine can at most send a vice admiral to escort him, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. Now, under Jack's command, the pirate ship was rushing towards the warship at full speed. This pirate ship is actually faster than a warship, and it is still accelerating. Jack was standing on the bow of the boat very impressively, pulling out 2 ivory knives, one on the left and one on the right. Staring brightly ahead, the pirate ship split the sea, letting the strong wind set off huge waves to hit him. At this moment, Jack thinks he is extremely handsome. Aren't there just 3 admirals? After all, this is on the ocean and everyone has fruit abilities. Who is afraid of whom? Just play with a heartbeat. Jack couldn't believe that the opponent wasn't scared when he collided with him at full speed. It would not be good for everyone if the ship disappeared at this time. So Jack thinks that the other party will definitely avoid it. This is exactly the same as playing a game of gambling. When 2 cars collide, whoever turns the corner first loses. Jack considers himself a brave man and he will never change direction. So drive the pirate ship and crash at full speed. But the pirates on Jack's pirate ship were frightened. But they didn't dare disobey Jack's orders, otherwise, Jack will throw him into the sea on the spot. 500 meters, 300 meters, 100 meters, the distance is getting closer. Advertisement: the speed of the pirate ship is getting faster and faster, almost reaching twice the speed of the warship. At this moment Jack stood on the bow and shouted, "Where is Doflamingo? Your brother Jack is here to save you." Now, in the inner warehouse, Doflamingo was sitting in a wheelchair and tied up tightly. Hearing this voice, I couldn't help but put my hand on my forehead. Not only was he not moved by this friendship, but he was speechless and wanted to pretend that he didn't know this person. This idiot is willing to kill someone after thousands of miles away. Didn't he see anyone on the boat? Why are you still standing there? You really have to wait for others to bump into you. Come on. Ron sat on the chair, took a sip of tea, and said angrily, "It is true that 1 monk has water to eat, but 3 monks have no water to eat. If this was an admiral, he would definitely go up, but if there are 3 admirals here, they would look at each other and not know who to go up. After all, this guy is really not worthy of admiral's action." Suddenly being taught such a lesson by Ron, the 3 people reacted immediately. Aokiji jumped up immediately. Ice Age. A direct meeting revealed that when High was all good. The pirate ship that was sprinting at full speed just now was frozen directly on the ice. The speed suddenly changes to 0. Because of the sudden deceleration, many people on the ship were thrown out due to inertia. All the flutters landed on the ice. At the same time, Akainu punched directly, and his huge fist turned into lava. He rushed straight towards the Jack pirates. Just one encounter directly penetrated Jack's pirate ship and burst into flames. The other pirates were forced to jump ship quickly. Jack didn't expect the attack to come so suddenly, which was a bit different from his plan. But there is no way now, you can only jump down first. Then he held up 2 knives and shouted to his men, "Follow me and rush over, kill Doflamingo, and rescue Doflamingo." The pirates who were still alive at this moment were all looking at Jack in confusion. Damn it. You still have to charge. Brother, please raise your hands and surrender. What kind of situation is this? Do you want your life? At this time, Kizaru jumped up, crossed his arms, and the yellow light of the cross star, Madara, suddenly erupted. Then it turned into a laser rain all over the sky and hit the ground below. Bang 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 bang. The entire ice cracked instantly, and the huge impact directly killed all the remaining pirates. Jack jumped up and jumped onto the boat. Humph, isn't it time to come up? You guys, come on. The air suddenly became quiet. Jack suddenly found that no one responded to him. When he turned around, his face darkened, and he realized that all his men had been killed, and there were corpses floating on the sea. Looking back, 3 Admiral and Sengoku were staring at him. Jack. 136. Marine's Dimension Reduction Attack, Deposing the King, and Abolishing Shichibukai. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. I have to say that the whole scene is indeed a bit embarrassing now. Jack finally rushed to the Marine warship, but when he looked back, no one followed him. In front of him were Marine Admiral 3 and Marshal Sengoku. This scene. The air seemed to be stagnant. I actually asked you to rush over, here. Kizaru touched his chin and said with a crooked mouth. Akainu snorted coldly, where are the others lying in wait? Akainu didn't believe that this guy had the guts to rush towards them, so Akainu thought that this guy must be acting as a feint. The real main force should be Kaido's troops. Logically speaking, they should be lying in ambush around them. Jack held 2 knives, stood in front of the 4 giants, and sneered without fear. Who do you think Lousy is? I can rescue Doflamingo by myself, so why do you need others? Akainu frowned. You are alone. Do you think I am stupid? How dare you come here alone? Akainu felt insulted. His tone suddenly became stern, and his voice was full of anger. HMPH, hand over Doflamingo, Jack said stubbornly. Akainu wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Ron. Don't talk nonsense to him, hit him. 3 Admiral received the order and immediately launched an attack. Jack had no power to fight back in front of the 3 Admirals. In less than 1 round, he was knocked down directly. They were all fooled by Jack. This was his first time playing against San Admiral, and he didn't expect the gap to be so big. Sure enough, I am still too young. Although Jack has an old face, who would have thought that he is a young man under 28 years old. But now he was beaten to the ground and couldn't get up. Then Kizaru and Aokiji stood up for him, one on the left and the other on the right. Ron walked over slowly. Kill him and throw him into the sea. Akainu immediately stood up and said, no, this guy definitely didn't come here by himself. We have to find out where the others are. Advertisement, he must be followed by Kaido's large army. This guy is just a cover. In fact, it's no wonder Akainu thinks so, because any normal person would not rush towards them directly. Ron shook his head and said, it's just him, Kaido didn't come over. Akainu was stunned. What? Is this guy mentally ill? How dare you rush over here? Akainu never doubted what Ron said. Since Ron said there was no one else following him, there must be no one. This made him speechless. He didn't expect the guy in front of him to be so reckless. 1 minute later, Jack was killed and thrown into the sea. It is still far away from Dressrosa and requires sailing at night to get there. So the whole ship sailed on the sea for another night. Early morning of the second day, the news that Jack was killed spread throughout the world through newspapers. Ghost Island. Kaido looked at the newspaper in his hand in disbelief. He was stunned. There was a picture printed on an entire side of the newspaper, showing all the people on that ship. Then there are a few lines of small words printed below, which roughly describe the details of Jack the Drow's battle with them. Because the battle process is extremely brief, it can be introduced clearly in a few sentences. But when Kaido saw this passage, he couldn't help but take a breath. He never expected that Jack would be able to charge forward after seeing such a lineup. This idiot is really going to get me into trouble. Lousy has to go around this lineup, but he dares to charge forward. He's so awesome, or else he could be the captain. After a night of sailing, Ron and others have arrived at Dressrosa. The warship slowly sailed into the port. I have to say that if you don't know the truth about Dressrosa, you will really be confused by this prosperous scene. Sengoku looked at the prosperous scene and couldn't help but take a breath when he thought of what Ron told him yesterday. This Doflamingo is so hidden. Now, Doflamingo family officials are greeting them at the port. Among them are many residents of Dressrosa. For these people who don't know the truth, Doflamingo is still their good king. They didn't know yet that Doflamingo had been arrested. After the warship is parked, Ron and Sengoku slowly walked to the deck and looked down at everyone in front of them. At this time, Toripal, the top cadre, took the lead and stepped forward. Welcome Marshal Sengoku to Dressrosa. Thank you Marine for escorting the young master all the way. We're here to greet the young master. Advertisement, these guys are extremely arrogant. Seeing Marshal Marine, Sengoku and the 3 Admirals there, they still look cynical. Look, these are the Marines who won yesterday. That's the 3 Admirals and that's the Sengoku Genshi. Wow, is that bald man the Inspector General in the newspaper who directed the battle? Yes, I didn't expect to see them in person this time. Some residents of Dressrosa heard the Marine executives were coming, so they couldn't wait to come over and watch the excitement. I want to meet these heroes who defeated the pirates. Among them are Rebecca, the old king, and the toy soldier King Cyrus. These people were also among the crowd. When they learned the result of yesterday's summer war, they were actually very excited. They also hope that Marine can come and help solve Dressrosa's problem, but who will believe these problems? On the surface, this place looks prosperous, so they can't make Marine believe it. Moreover, Doflamingo is also related to the world government. He was once a member of the Celestial Dragons and has a profound background. Today they saw Marine personally sending Doflamingo back, which made them even more desperate. Doflamingo has such a high salary at Marine. It seems that it is almost impossible to expect Marine to help on Dressrosa. At this time, Ron stepped forward, took 2 steps, and stood at the bow of the boat. Looking down, he asked slowly, Are all your cadres already here? There are still a lot of people missing. Hearing Ron ask this, Torble was a little surprised and didn't understand what it meant. That's right, all of us are here to welcome the young master home. Let the young master get off the ship quickly. You Marine can just send it here, you can go back. Unexpectedly, Ron nodded and then said, it'll be fine if they're all here. Come here, arrest them all. Ron waved his hand downwards and his tone was very calm. But this sentence caused quite a stir in the audience. The residents of Dressrosa were all confused, and they thought they heard wrongly. Even the top officials looked at Ron on the top of the ship with confused expressions. What? Ketchu? I didn't react for a while. Just after receiving Ron's order, 6 CP-9s in dark suits jumped directly from the ship. Thousands of Marine soldiers followed closely behind, fully armed and full of momentum. The ground trampled by the Need army trembled. Please give me flowers. Zero. He rushed directly towards the Don Quixote family cadres with the force of thunder. The entire Marine force was in order, first isolating the civilians and forming a huge encirclement in the middle. Everyone in Dressrosa was surrounded. Immediately afterwards, CP-9 began to transform into a black shadow and rushed in, blocking the cadres' escape route. Today's Marine has been completely transformed under Ron's leadership. Wherever he is ordered, the entire army is involved. Whether it is military appearance, military discipline, or combat effectiveness and discipline, it is eye-catching. Torble looked at the densely packed Marines and asked with a shocked look on his face. Advertisement, what are you doing? Our young master is a Shichibukai, a pirate recognized by the world government. Although they didn't know why Marine did this, they didn't intend to sit still and immediately launched a counterattack. Just give Pika a second. Kizaru has become more motivated than before after receiving the model medal. Marine's combat power is too high, right? Ron didn't talk nonsense. As soon as he put down his hand, all Marines immediately took action. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the bald man who had just given the order. Do it. The speed was so fast that the other party didn't even react. The scene was extremely chaotic, but Marine, who had been baptized by the Summit War, was no longer the same as before. These Marine soldiers also have 20% to 30% of the flowing rock-shattering fist. No one expected that Marine would be serious this time. What is this bald Inspector General doing? At this moment, there was a swarm of counterattacks. At this time, everyone's minds were confused and they didn't know what happened for a while. Marine really took action, and the whole place was in an uproar. All Don Quixote family officials and soldiers present at the scene were disarmed. Now CP-9's combat power makes it easy to deal with them. After Pika was killed, the cadres of the Don Quixote family all became nervous. The ability of this rock is too destructive, and it is easy to accidentally injure residents, so this guy should be the first to kill him instantly. There is a small chance that CP-9 can kill him instantly. It is safer to let Kizaru take action, otherwise once this guy seizes the opportunity, he will get in. It's not easy to do it in rocks. In less than 10 minutes, all the residents of Dressrosa stared in shock. It is also easy to deal with these ordinary soldiers of the Don Quixote family. And he is also the king of Dressrosa. We are a member country of the world government. Is there any member country that you treat like this? She seemed to be waiting for him to speak. There are more than 2,000 Don Quixote family cadres plus the army. Kizaru, kill Pika quickly. Don't let this guy use his abilities, otherwise it will be bad to hurt these residents. Marine's move really shocked them. They never dreamed that Marine would do anything to Don Quixote's family. Without hesitation, it turned into a flash of light and turned into a sharp arrow, which directly penetrated Pika's chest. Instantly intertwined with Marine, we must give an explanation today. Even the ordinary residents of Dressrosa were fooled, especially several members of the Liku royal family, including Rebecca, Princess Olvera, the toy soldier Cyrus, and Yu Shiku. Whether it is tactics or combat effectiveness, they can crush the opponent. What's more, how could the Don Quixote family have the combat history of the Whitebeard pirates and the Revolutionary Army? The whole scene suddenly became quiet. Aren't they working together? Aren't Marine and Shichibukai working together? What's going on now? 137. 5 elders shouted, Lord Ron, shocking everyone. Execute Ming Jie. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Everyone thought Marine came to send Doflamingo away. No one expected that the situation at the scene would turn out like this. The entire population of Dressrosa was stunned. They looked at this scene in disbelief. Marine moved too fast. As soon as he came up, he controlled the situation with thunderous momentum. Control all of Doflamingo's cadres. You must know that this is the entire military strength and combat effectiveness of a country. I didn't expect to be so vulnerable in front of Marine. In just one encounter, in less than 10 minutes, he was already subdued. What a terrifying combat power this is. Now these ordinary people finally understand why yesterday's Summit War Marine won. This is too strong. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you wouldn't believe it. When did Marine become so powerful? They remembered that the Marines they saw before were chased and beaten by pirates. Every time I encountered a pirate, I was beaten to the point of losing my armor. I have never seen Marine catch a pirate. He has always been teased by pirates, but today's situation is completely opposite. Marine's combat prowess has simply reached an unimaginable level. The pirate was controlled so easily, and the scene was extremely shocking. This kind of large-scale military suppression was really shocking. 803. The cadres of the Doflamingo family were even more confused. They really couldn't imagine why Marine would do this. So Torble said very angrily, why are you doing this? Where's our young master? I want to see my young master. When he comes back, he will definitely make you look good. Don't you know the identity of our young master? It's obvious that these cadres are not giving up. As long as they don't see their young master Doflamingo, everything will turn around. Torble's words also awakened the people present. That's right, isn't Doflamingo Shichibukai? Why would Marine attack Shichibukai? King Riku and Rebecca also looked at Ron in disbelief. Everyone was waiting for Ron to speak. What is going on? Everyone wants to wait for an answer. Just at this time, Ron finally spoke. I saw him saying lightly. Someone, bring Brother Ming up. Advertisement as soon as he finished speaking. Stussy escorted Doflamingo out of the inner warehouse. Because Doflamingo's legs have been broken, he can only use a wheelchair. The leaders of the Don Quixote family saw this miserable state of Doflamingo. Everyone was confused. They originally thought that Marine attacked them because he didn't know Doflamingo's identity. But seeing his young master like this, it was obvious that the young master had been poisoned by Marine in advance. What exactly did you do to the young master? Why did you do this? Diamante said angrily. Seeing the miserable state of their king, the surrounding residents couldn't help but start talking below. What's going on? Can anyone tell me? I've been confused from the beginning to now. Didn't the plot turn too fast? I don't know either. Let's just wait and see. Marine's launch of such a big posture is definitely not a trivial matter. This Doflamingo must have committed some serious crime. But even so, Marine can't do anything to Shichibukai? Have you forgotten what happened in Alabasta half a month ago? Crocodile wasn't Shichibukai. He was also killed by the Inspector General. Brother Ming, what is going on? Diamante asked. Doflamingo's face darkened. He didn't expect Ron to be so awesome. Even his hometown was destroyed. What right do you have to do this? Don't forget that I am the king and Shichibukai of this country. Doflamingo said angrily. Ron then slowly said loudly. All Dressrosa's toys, you must know the darkness behind Dressrosa best, and you also know what Doflamingo has done to this country. This sentence instantly resonated with countless toys. It's a pity that they can't change back to their true bodies now, and their relatives and friends have forgotten them. So even though they knew the truth, no one believed anything they said. They live in such a world, watching their friends, relatives and family members being deceived, but there is nothing they can do. After all, they are people who do not exist in these people's memories. Even if I wanted to explain it, there is no place to explain it. When they heard Ron say this, they couldn't help but feel extremely excited. I didn't expect that anyone would remember them. Listening to the Inspector General's tone, it seemed as if he knew everything. When the cadres of the Don Quixote family heard this sentence, they couldn't help but trembled. Doflamingo snorted coldly. I have no idea what you are talking about. What evidence do you have? Doflamingo is very confident that as long as they can't find sugar, there is no way to restore these toys to their normal appearance. In this case, no one will believe anything these toys say, and the bald Inspector General has no way to prove that everything he says is true. Anyway, the sugar has been hidden secretly, and it is impossible to find him. Advertisement. Ron clapped his hands and said, Aokiji, go in this direction and bring this little girl over. Remember not to be touched by her, otherwise you will be turned into a toy. Ron took out the compass, immediately locked the position of the sugar, and then handed the compass to Aokiji. Got it. Aokiji immediately rushed in that direction. Doflamingo's old face darkened and he gritted his teeth and said, How do you know sugar? No, you can't know her location. After hearing Doflamingo say this, Sengoku shook his head speechlessly and couldn't help but feel funny. It seems that this guy still doesn't know that Ron has a magical weapon, and he is still talking arrogantly. Ever since Sengoku saw Ron's compass last time, he exclaimed that it was magical. As long as this thing was there, basically no one or thing could be found. Sure enough, just 3 minutes after he finished speaking this sentence, a little girl who was frozen into ice was carried over. Aokiji listened to Ron's words and froze the little girl into ice in order to prevent her from touching him. But still retaining her consciousness, the sugar was in the ice cubes, staring out. When Doflamingo saw sugar being brought over, he was instantly disappointed. It wilted all of a sudden. Let the toys tell you everything that follows. Ron said to all the residents present. Subsequently, Ron made a gesture of wiping Aokiji's neck. Aokiji was a little puzzled, but he did as he was told and made a fist gesture. The entire ice cube burst instantly. Sugar died on the spot. Then, an incredible scene happened, and the entire Dressrosa toy instantly turned into a human form. Memories that disappeared in people's minds were restored in an instant. Only then did everyone realize that these toys turned out to be their own relatives. After hugging and crying, these toy people also told everyone the truth of the matter. From now on, nothing needs to be said. The truth is clear. All the people immediately hated Doflamingo. This bastard has deceived us for so many years. What a disgusting guy, he did this to my family. King Liku, I'm back. I'm Cyrus. The whole scene instantly became boiling, and everyone began to accuse and insult Doflamingo. I am also very grateful to Marine for giving them justice. Rebecca was extremely excited at this moment and covered her face with tears. Advertisement finally recognized his father. Never in his wildest dreams did he think that Marine would help them. After a while, the call was connected, but 5 elders didn't even look at Doflamingo. Sir Ron, wait a minute, I need to speak to the 5 elders. The people who knew the truth were all very happy when they heard the news. I am the CPO of world government. The 5 elders have explained that wherever Lord Ron is, if the 5 elders come in person, any 5.5 decision does not need to be reported. He has the right to handle everything. After all, he was once a celestial dragon, and he knew very well the status of the 5 elders, and he also understood who the 5 elders would call, Sir. Ron stretched out his hands to silence everyone's voices. What excuses do you have now? Sengoku saw this scene and finally understood how deeply Doflamingo had poisoned this country, and said angrily to Doflamingo. Don Quixote family officials were immediately reluctant. When these 4 words were called out, Doflamingo was already devastated. He doesn't deserve to be our king. Return the throne to King Riku quickly. He was the one who took the throne away. After all, he is the king, and Marine has no right to remove him. At this moment, there is no need to say anything else. When I heard this title, I already understood everything. Although these guys are bad guys, what they say makes sense. The crowd was furious for a moment, but after hearing Ron's news, everyone was very happy. Then he said, at this time, great, Marine is wise, Inspector General is wise. The top commanders of the world government, the 5 elders, certainly have the power to depose a king. They couldn't help but cheered again. Hearing this sentence, other people couldn't help but become worried. Scumbags like this should have been executed long ago. Finally someone could make the decision for them. Ron's voice was sonorous and powerful, and instantly spread throughout Dressrosa. The CPO personally spoke and instantly dispelled all the people's doubts. Doflamingo has committed such a serious crime, and I hereby declare that Doflamingo is removed from the position of King Dressrosa. Stussy stood up and said loudly. Instead, he said very respectfully. Seeing this scene with his own eyes was even more shocking than what Ron described to him yesterday. You are just the Inspector General of Marine. What qualifications do you have to remove a king? Doflamingo's heart suddenly felt cold, but he still said without giving up. No wonder Ron can be so domineering, it turns out he came with this kind of power. The cadres of the Don Quixote family turned pale. How could a small Marine Inspector General have such great power? The meaning of this sentence is very simple and not difficult to understand. In other words, how much power does the 5 elders have? Then this Inspector General can use what power? Is that you? Brother Ming couldn't help but look at Ron and said in surprise. Even Sengoku on the side was stunned when he heard this sentence. 138. Brother Ming ransacked the house, and Ron appointed a new king, gift for sister. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. Doflamingo's face turned pale and his heart was ashen. Now all thoughts are lost. He already knew that he had no room for improvement. He couldn't help but start covering his forehead with his hands and grinned. Furfur, I really don't understand what benefit this would do to you. Wouldn't it be better to just be obedient and enjoy the conveniences this world brings to you? Do you know how much I hated my father for leaving Marijoy? Do you know how much I want to go back to Marijoy and take back my identity? And you have all this, but you don't know how to enjoy it. What good will it do to you? Doflamingo laughed loudly. The laughter was so sad that it shocked the whole Dressrosa. No one knew what Doflamingo was laughing about. I don't know what Doflamingo means, it's unclear. It makes people confused, but this feeling of desolation and unwillingness can be felt by everyone. But no one sympathized with him at this time. The entire population of Dressrosa has figured out what Doflamingo is doing. At this time, everyone can't wait to get rid of it quickly. The more sad and desperate Doflamingo is, the happier they are. Justice was more than 10 years late, but he finally came. It's better to come than not to come, right? The cadres of the Don Quixote family looked at this scene with deep emotion. I do not know what to say. Young master, is this crazy? What did the 5 elders say that could make the young master collapse like this? Dover, several cadres shouted in unison, 15. However, their voices were drowned in the roar of the masses. Now, only then did they realize how feeble their voices were in front of so many people. These people who have been teased and fooled by them will one day be drowned out by them. This is the power of justice. When justice is on one side, the voice from that side will overwhelm everything else. Sengoku looked at the cheers below. I couldn't help but be extremely happy. This is what Marine should do. This is the justice that Marine should uphold. So happy. Sengoku has been a Marine for so many years, and this is the first time he has experienced the feeling of being supported by ordinary people. At this moment, Sengoku couldn't help but glance at Ron next to him. He had always rejected this Inspector General coming to Marine before. Advertisement after all, this is human nature, and no one would like an outsider to supervise their work. And at that time, I thought that the son of a dandy sent by the world government would only come over and point fingers. But now Sengoku has completely changed his mind. Everything he experienced with Ron made him look at this man with admiration. Everything this 18-year-old man does is earth-shattering and deeply popular. Under his leadership, Marine not only became stronger, but also became more disciplined and more like a soldier. Kizaru and Garp also became different under his changes. The most important thing is that he saved Marine's reputation and prestige. It rekindled people's hope for Marine and changed Marine's generally unreliable image in everyone's mind. This is the most important. This is an achievement that Sengoku has been unable to achieve for more than 40 years of hard work, and was achieved by the other party in just 1 month. For this Inspector General, Sengoku is convinced from the bottom of his heart. Ron looked at the slightly crazy Doflamingo. He said calmly. Some people want to be the king of the dark world, and some people want to be the king of the peaceful world. The era of chaos, disorder, darkness, and injustice is outdated. Ron's voice was so low that only Doflamingo could hear it. But the tone was serious. This is a conversation between 2 generations of celestial dragons and a collision of their consciousness concepts. Doflamingo was stunned. Kr. Fu. You are making an enemy of the whole world by doing this. Once the former I am comes out of prison and sees everything you have done, do you think he will forgive you? Ron suddenly laughed. You are still too naive. You're just a retired old guy. Do you think anyone will listen to him? Right, 5 elders? Ron suddenly changed the subject and spoke into the phone. When the 5 elders on the other end of the phone heard these words, they couldn't help but feel nervous. Cold sweat breaks out from behind, he said immediately without hesitation. I will only obey the orders of the current Lord I Am and Lord Ron. Ron nodded and then said, let us inform you that the Shichibukai system will be abolished. From tomorrow on, we will no longer have pirates recognized by the world government. The world government will completely dissociate itself from pirates. From now on, thieves will be thieves. Neither world government nor Marine will have anything to do with pirates. Connection. 5 elders said immediately after hearing this. Yes, I'll notify you later. After hanging up the phone, Doflamingo's face turned deadly. Kizaru, for rescuing all the villains in the Smile Factory. Ron waved. Is it me again? Kizaru touched his chin and was speechless for a while. But we set off without hesitation. The guards led by Admiral himself and responsible for guarding the Smile Factory were no match at all. Advertisement, they were all killed in a matter of seconds. All the little humans were quickly rescued. At this moment, they came to Ron excitedly and complained bitterly about Doflamingo's crimes. The appearance of these little humans shocked Sengoku and others. Leo held a needle in his hand and immediately spoke on behalf of all the little humans. Thank you very much, but we still have to rescue our princess. She was captured by this bad guy and we can't find her. Leo said as he pointed the needle at Doflamingo. Doflamingo sneered. Do you think I can still tell you where she is hiding in this situation? Stop daydreaming, all my people have been captured by Marine, so no one will bring food to your princess, let her starve to death inside, foo. This is the last moment of Doflamingo's stubbornness. It is also his last trump card that can threaten Marine. But after he finished laughing, he found that all the Marines looked at him like a fool. Doflamingo's face turned gloomy. Sengoku shook his head and said, why don't you have a long memory? Have you forgotten how the sugar was found? Hearing this, Doflamingo's expression darkened again. Really? At this time, I saw the bald man take out the mysterious compass again, and then pointed in a direction to his men. Less than 5 minutes later, the little human princess has already been brought here. Suddenly the entire small human race was grateful and said that they would build a statue for Ron. Call Ron Way Ron Lando. Only Doflamingo gritted his teeth and looked at the broken compass. He really hated this thing. His 2 trump cards, Sugar and the little human princess, were both found by this thing. It's time for this to end. Ron glanced at everyone at the scene and saw that those who should be controlled were basically under control, and those who should be rescued had been rescued. Someone is here to put Doflamingo and all the cadres of Don Quixote family on the execution platform. Ron said calmly. One sentence caused the whole place to boil. They thought Marine was just subduing these people. But from the tone of this Inspector General, it sounds like he is going to be punished directly. If this is really the case, it would be very satisfying. Suddenly the originally quiet scene burst into cheers again. Corresponding to this are the entire cadre of the Don Quixote family. When they heard this sentence, their faces became gloomy. Many people began to struggle. After all, not everyone can face death calmly. Especially for them, they are still very scared when death comes. But it's no use. Marine's current action speed is very fast and efficient. Advertisement within minutes they were all put on the execution platform. All the people in Dressrosa rushed to tell each other. In just a few minutes, tens of thousands of Dressrosa residents gathered under the execution platform. These people all wanted to see with their own eyes the execution of Brother Ming and his gang. To relieve the hatred in my heart, Ron slowly walked onto the execution platform and spoke loudly in front of everyone's attention. Don Quixote's family has committed crimes that are not punishable by death, but they have been impunity for so many years, and today, I want this whole Dressrosa. 823. After a while, 4 people, including the old King Riku and Princess Rebecca, stood at HE. Execution. All members of the Don Quixote family will now be executed. Ron's move immediately aroused thunderous applause from the audience. When these victims heard the news, everyone burst into loud cheers again. All members of Doflamingo were executed. Puff. Ron's words ended here. Blood splattered. I hereby appoint King of Dressrosa to be Riku. The delayed justice achievement is completed, and a silver treasure chest is obtained. The throne of Dressrosa will be officially returned to you starting today. Ron's raised hand suddenly fell down. Then, Ron immediately ordered Blackbeard. The devil fruit and sugar is extracted. Now Blackbeard has become Marine's toolman, shouted loudly. Nothing could express their gratitude. Devil fruit is extracted specifically for Ron. Moreover, this devil fruit has another benefit. It can keep people looking young. Suddenly there was cheers and applause below. Immediately afterwards, the executioner's 2 spears pierced directly into their bodies. Subsequently, Ron ordered again. Eradicate the darkness, bring light, and change the people of Dressrosa's impression of Marine. See this with your own eyes. At this moment, all the glory of Dressrosa belongs to Ron. You can take it back to Iam to eat. She should like it very much. Ron thought of this and picked up the devil fruit in his hand. At the same time, dozens of Don Quixote family officials were pushed to the ground. Someone bring the members of King Riku's family here. This devil fruit is too perverted to let it continue to live in the world. The applause of tens of thousands of people was as loud as thunder. A good thing for women. The whole place became quiet instantly, and everyone watched this scene with bated breath. The cheers of the crowd even overwhelmed the waves. He fell to the ground with a plop. 139. A new member of Marine joined and bumped into the Golden Lion on the way back. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Ron immediately commanded the remaining Marines to take over all Dressrosa's ports. At the same time, all underground trading items were confiscated. There are various smuggled weapons throughout the underground, as well as smile fruit raw materials that have not been shipped out, and they have all been taken over by Marine. All assets of the Don Quixote family were also confiscated. All confiscated. It has to be said that the Don Quixote family's property is really big, and Marine ransacked the property for a long time. Only then did everything get counted, a full 60 billion belly. This includes the Don Quixote family's years of smuggling weapons, the slave trade, and the profits from the Smile Factory. These Marine soldiers were not tired from the battle just now, but they were tired from searching their homes. After a busy day and night, I finally got everything sorted out. Even Sengoku couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect Doflamingo to have plundered so much over the years. This is how much hard-earned money of ordinary families, and how many lives were exchanged for it. I really can't imagine how much pain this huge sum of money has brought to people. Ron shook his head. This kind of people are more hateful than pure pirates. Their evil is invisible. This kind of evil is the most despairing. This kind of oppression of people's freedom and lives has been put on a gorgeous coat. It blinded everyone. And that's exactly what the world government has given them. This will lead to all the crimes they have committed, and this bloody debt will be blamed on the world government. Gradually, world government and Marine will be despised by the public. Sengoku sighed. He knew that Ron was right, and through these incidents, he also felt Ron's determination. Sengoku is not willing to be a slave to evil, he also wants a future full of justice and brightness. But he couldn't do it himself. Marine has not taken this step in his 40 years of leadership. Ron only came here for a month before Marine took this step. So Sengoku thought for a long time and then said it very seriously. What do you want to do? We at Marine fully support you. Ron turned around and glanced at Sengoku, then said. The world is rotten, like a rotten wound. Marine is the scalpel. He first removes the rotten polyps on the outside, and then sterilizes and disinfects the inside. Sengoku couldn't help being shocked when he heard this. Of course he understood the meaning of Ron's words. This man not only has to deal with the pirates outside, he also has to clear out the moths inside the entire organization. Sengoku was shocked. He immediately stood up straight and saluted Ron with a military salute. Advertisement said very seriously, Marine is willing to be the scalpel in the hands of the Inspector General. This is the first time Sengoku has taken a stand. If what Ron just said is true, then Sengoku is willing to be Ron's sword. If we can eradicate corruption from this world, it will all be worth it. Other Marine senior executives were shocked when they suddenly saw Sengoku's move. Although they didn't hear what Sengoku and Ron were talking about, they knew Sengoku. This man had always been unruly. They had never seen Sengoku make such an attitude before. Kong, the commander-in-chief of the army, could not do it, nor could the 5 elders. Only Ron could do it. During this period, the Linen royal family also settled in the castle again. With Ron's authorization, he became the current king of Dressrosa. Amidst the enthusiastic cheers of the Dressrosa crowd, a grand banquet for national celebration has been held. In order to thank Ron and Marine for saving their Dressrosa, these people refused to let Marine leave at all and insisted on holding a banquet here. What happened today is so heart-wrenching. The happiest people are all the victims of Dressrosa. They had suppressed the pain for more than 10 years, and today they were able to take revenge. The bad guys were brought to justice, they were finally reunited with their families, and the darkness in Dressrosa was swept away. Marine as a whole also received unprecedented preferential treatment. Especially the 3 Admiral and Marine Marshal Sengoku. They feel the deepest at this moment. They are all veterans who have been in the army for 10 years. But I have never received such preferential treatment. The residents of any place had never invited them to hold a banquet for 3 days and 3 nights. Feel the joy and joy of these ordinary citizens so close. It really made them extremely happy. This feeling is intoxicating. During these 3 days and 3 nights of banquets, Kizaru was dragged into the show several times. After all, he was the only Marine Admiral to take action in Dressrosa. Therefore, ordinary people have a relatively high impression of him. Kizaru, this guy, usually has big wrinkles on his face and looks vulgar. When he was pulled onto the stage to perform, Akainu and Shinchi below laughed so hard. The whole atmosphere was jovial, and Sengoku and King Riku had been very drunk these past few nights. Finally, 3 days later, the banquet ended successfully. Marine boarded the warship amid the joyous send-off of the entire Dressrosa population. When he arrived at the port, Ron looked at the huge statue standing on the port speechlessly. It is a bust of himself, more than 50 meters high. It is really a huge thing, just built on the port, so that everyone who lands on the island and everyone who leaves the port can see it as long as they pass by the port. The people of Dressrosa are so welcoming. Advertisement. I completely respect Ron as the god who saved Dressrosa. Ron felt a little speechless, but at this time. Suddenly the little human race came running over. Represented by Leo, he said excitedly when he saw Ron. We also want to join Marine and protect Dressrosa. Generally, there is a Marine garrison in any country. This can solve some troubles in these countries in a timely manner. It can also protect these countries when they are invaded by pirates. But Dressrosa is an exception, because this is where Shichibukai was originally the king, so there are no pirates making trouble here. And Doflamingo doesn't allow Marine to station troops here. So this place is one of the few countries without Marine garrison. Ron was planning to station some soldiers here, but at this moment, the little human race suddenly took the initiative to ask for help. Ron was a little surprised. Oh, do you really want to be Marine? Ron asked. Leo said excitedly, yes, we also want to become a Marine like the Inspector General and protect Dressrosa. The little humans are the simplest, and they will yearn for things they think are good. Ron nodded, then he said to Sengoku behind him. Incorporate them into Marine and give them a formal Marine establishment. Sengoku was a little surprised. Never before had so many people volunteered to become Marines like now. This actually flattered Sengoku. However, after understanding the combat power of this group of small humans, Sengoku certainly welcomed them. So he said immediately, okay, let's add you to the G7 branch. From now on, you will be Leo Vice Admiral. These little human soldiers will be under your control. From now on, you will be an excellent Marine soldier. Hearing Marshal Marine say this, Leo and others were naturally excited. I quickly expressed my thanks to Ron and Sengoku. And the ordinary people of Dressrosa couldn't help but be very happy when they heard this scene. Having these, invisible, little Marines help protect Dressrosa made them feel relieved. I'm not afraid that after Marine leaves here, any pirates will come to harass this place. Ron smiled and patted Leo's head. By the way, Sengoku, don't forget to customize Marine uniforms for them. As a Marine, it's not okay to wear them like this. Hearing Ron's words, Leo and others were even more happy. They also want to wear these handsome military uniforms, but they're too small. It would be best if Marine can customize them for them. Great, we can wear military uniforms too. Advertisement. The people of the small human race were extremely excited. Sengoku nodded. This ability is so familiar. The Pluton finally left here. There are 2 ways to cross the red line. One is to pass by Marijoy, the other is to pass by the Fishman Island below. At this moment, Sengoku suddenly looked up at the ships floating in the sky and frowned. Maybe this is the chance for the Fishman Island to return to the sea. Because Smoker has sent the world government's escort troops back to Malaysia. Just floating in the air heading towards East Blue. And now, the Fishman Island. Ron couldn't help but raise his head and then smiled. Ron planned to go back to Marijoy and meet IM, so he decided to walk from the top. King Neptune decided instantly that it was time to contact the Inspector General. Once again caused an uproar. After these 3 days, what happened in Dressrosa has already spread throughout the world. The Pluton sailed slowly. It caused a huge sensation in all countries. After what happened last time, Neptune has been paying attention to Marine's movements. It's a very familiar feeling. This is the first time the Marine has forcefully intervened in a country's political power. So Ron got on the Pluton directly for the return trip. I didn't expect to meet the Golden Lion here. This guy really knows how to hit the gun. So King Neptune sent 3 princes to leave the bottom of the sea and set off towards the Marine headquarters, preparing to talk to Ron. After getting everything settled, he wanted to know whether the Inspector General was worth entrusting the Fishman Islands, Money Jiao, future to him. So now Ron has to cross the red line if he wants to go back. Under Sengoku's instructions, the 3 admirals suddenly looked up, and sure enough they found 5 or 6 huge pirate ships floating above their heads. Because Dressrosa is located in New World, and the current Marine headquarters is not in the first half of the Grand Line. Different places gave different reactions. We are still some distance away from the red line. The main thing is to pay attention to the movements of the Inspector General. So the Pluton was brought back 2 days ago and has been parked at the port of Dressrosa. Lord Knight Neptune, after hearing the report from his subordinates, fell into deep thought. No, look up quickly, lift off, Ron ordered directly. And now, after hearing their actions in Dressrosa, arrange it for them immediately. It's not difficult to arrange the military uniforms. It should be delivered to them in 3 days. 140. Air combat. The Pluton took off and bombarded the Golden Lion, and the 3 admirals surrounded it. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. What? Ron's words rose into the air, and Sengoku and others were instantly stunned. How do we get into the air? We can't fly like Golden Lion. Sengoku said with a confused look. After all, Golden Lion and the others are in the air now, and they are extremely far away from the ground. Even if you see them at this time, there is no way to track them. This is also something that can't be helped. The Golden Lion can pass by anywhere with such swagger. He could even fly from the Marine headquarters so arrogantly. He was passing back and forth on top of all the Marines, and there was nothing Marine could do to him. After all, it's too high. Therefore, Golden Lion relies on this ability to sail unscrupulously on the sea. He is also the only pirate who doesn't have to avoid Marine. This is where Lion Fruit perverts. So even if Sengoku saw the Golden Lion up there just now, he didn't give any order to attack. There's no way, it can't be attacked, so I can only take a look. But what Ron said just now took off. Sengoku was really confused. Report to Marshal Sengoku that the ancient weapon Pluton is flyable. At this time, as the captain of the Pluton, Smoker immediately stood up and reported to Sengoku. What? Sengoku's expression became extremely exaggerated. He had never heard that the Pluton could fly. This is too exaggerated. Even in historical records, the specific characteristics of the Pluton are not described in detail. But based on common sense, the Pluton is just a ship after all. At most, it is a relatively powerful ship. Wouldn't it be outrageous if it could fly? Sengoku is still a little unsure. After all, Smoker's words don't sound that reliable. So Sengoku still looked at Ron, waiting for the man 237 to give him the final answer. Sengoku only believed what he said. Ron nodded and said, yes, the Pluton can fly. In Sky Island, the golden spaceship that Enel rides on uses the same power conversion device as the Pluton. So it can fly. This is lunar technology. Pluton is the master of lunar technology. Hearing Ron say this, Sengoku couldn't help but take a breath. He believed what Ron said. At this time, advertisement. Smoker was ready and asked Ron for instructions. The Pluton is ready and can take off at any time. Instructions. Permission granted. Ron responded calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone felt the ship's hull shaking violently. Even Sengoku almost lost his balance. Immediately afterwards, they could feel that they were gradually leaving the sea. Many soldiers who were riding on the Pluton for the first time were curiously lying next to the railing of the ship, looking down with wide eyes. The entire hull is gradually rising out of the water. Gradually leaving the sea. The water on the hull is constantly flowing downward. In the eyes of everyone exclaiming, the entire Pluton was completely out of the sea. It is rising into the sky. It's unbelievable. I didn't expect this ship to really fly. This is my first time to make a flying ship. It feels so good. Now when I go back, I can brag about it to those who have never done it before. So this is what it feels like to fly in the sky. All of a sudden, these Marine soldiers cheered and cheered. After all, this experience is something they have never had before. Even Sengoku couldn't help but change his expression. I didn't expect that the Pluton has such a special ability. It is indeed, BFEE, one of the 3 ancient weapons. But at this moment, 5 pirate ships flying in the sky also discovered the Pluton. The Golden Lion is ready to embark on a journey of dominance again starting from East Blue. So the spaceship we are piloting now sets off towards East Blue. At this moment, there is a central control room on Golden Lion's main ship. Countless scientists and meteorologists of all kinds are here. It can be said that the overall technological level of the Golden Lion, a pirate ship, is much higher than that of a warship. At this time, the picture presented through the special monitoring system of the Golden Lion spacecraft. Suddenly they found a ship flying from the sea, but it's too far away now to see clearly. It can only be roughly seen as a big black ship. Report to Captain Golden Lion, it seems that a political ship is approaching us. A meteorologist in a white coat said suddenly. At this time, Golden Lion is sitting in the command position. It was a bit unbelievable to hear this. What? How is this possible? We are in heaven. How can he get close to us? Seemingly frightened by the momentum of the Golden Lion, the meteorologist in a white coat said cautiously. It seems. Yes. They're flying too. The Golden Lion suddenly stood up and came to the monitor. Sure enough, they saw a black object approaching them. It could be seen from the radar scan on the ship that the distance between the two was getting closer. Is it really flying? Advertisement Golden Lion couldn't help but feel something strange. Throw them a voice shell and I want to talk to them. After a while, a sound-transmitting shell, a specialty of Sky Island, fell from the sky. Kizaru had quick eyes and quick hands to catch it. Sound-transmitting shell? Isn't this unique to Sky Island? Moxie, Kizaru spoke to the sound shell. A voice finally came after a moment. Who are you on the boat below? It is the voice of the Golden Lion. Sengoku heard it. After all, he had dealt with the Golden Lion, and the 3 admirals in front of him did not have very deep contact with the Golden Lion. So they didn't hear it for a while. Golden Lion? It's really you? Sengoku grabbed the sound transmission shell and said. Oh, this voice. It's been a long time since I last saw it. Sengoku, I never thought that the ship below was yours. When will your ship fly? Could it be that I have been imprisoned for too long and cannot keep up with this era? Golden Lion suddenly laughed. This really surprised him. Humph, this ship does not belong to me. Oh, whose is that? I'm quite curious. Do you want the captain to talk to me? Golden Lion became interested. Sengoku handed the sound shell to Ron. Ron said coldly. Golden Lion, come down and surrender. I'll give you a chance. If you surrender, maybe your life can be saved. Golden Lion was stunned for a moment when he heard these words. It's been a long time since anyone dared to talk to him like this. It seems that this ship belongs to you. I didn't notice it just now. Now that we are closer, why does this ship look so familiar? You kid opened the Pluton account, didn't you? Being able to find a changed Pluton number also shows that you are not simple. Just when Golden Lion finished saying this, the strange scientist under his command walked over, and the shoes under his feet made a popping sound with every step he took. I saw him coming to the Golden Lion, then lying in his ear and whispering. After hearing this person introduce what happened in the past few days. Only then did Golden Lion suddenly realize. It turns out to be the bald Inspector General. I didn't expect it to be you. So, you were targeting me this time, right? Golden Lion's tone suddenly became cold. Ron still said calmly, I can only blame you for your bad luck. You bumped into this by yourself. It seems that pigs have forgotten that you were a literary figure. When the Golden Lion heard this, he suddenly became very angry and laughed. Advertisement, it's really arrogant. It's hard to imagine that Whitebeard fell into your hands. But you seem to have chosen the wrong battlefield. You're in the air now. Except for the Pluton, you don't have any advantage. It seems that killing a Whitebeard will make you lose yourself. For players who can kill Whitebeard, Golden Lion naturally does not dare to be careless. But now it's in the air. This is my home court, and those guys are far away from the ground. They even try to fight me in the air. It can only be said that he is seeking death. Ron smiled. At this moment, the Pluton has taken off at the fastest speed. After a period of time, it is now at the same level as the Golden Lion's pirate ship. Now the spaceships of both sides are no more than 50 meters apart. Only with such a close contact can you feel the terrifying momentum of the Pluton. That kind of pressure is really not something that any kind of ship can bring. The Pluton is larger than the largest ship of the Golden Lion pirates. HMPH, I just want to change ships. Thank you for sending Pluton to me. Even the Golden Lion is greedy for this ship, and has already begun to think of grabbing it. You won't cry until you see the coffin. This is the characteristic of people of your time. Ron threw the sound shell casually. There is no need to continue communicating now. Ron directly ordered, fire. Yes. Smoker immediately turned the gun barrel and aimed at the Golden Lion's pirate ship. Then it began to accumulate force, and a steady stream of energy and air was continuously compressed, and then gathered in the direction of the cannon's mouth. Collection completed. The violent energy fluctuations deformed the surrounding air. Immediately afterwards, it was suddenly released, and a white energy impact, like the Yellow River bursting its banks, instantly cut through the air and rushed towards the Golden Lion. At this moment Golden Lion also stood up, his expression changed involuntarily, and he could feel the power of the Pluton. As expected of an ancient weapon, if this cannon were to hit him, his whole army would definitely be wiped out. That's a lot of fun. So at this moment, Golden Lion directly released Lion Fruit's ability without hesitation. Then his 5 ships immediately lost their ability to float, and began to fall towards the sea with a hissing sound. At the critical moment, by falling, it suddenly descended a large distance and avoided the Pluton's shot. Golden Lion then re-empowers the ship to float, then the Golden Lion roared. Damn it, aren't you just relying on the terrifying attack power of the Pluton? I don't believe you can keep firing. Without the Pluton, what else can you do to us? What other methods do you have? However, Ron smiled and said, I didn't say I wanted to use the Pluton account. My method has always been to fight in groups. Don't you know? Then, Ron waved his hand and said, You 3, come on. The next moment, 3 admirals jumped directly from the Pluton, and right below was the Golden Lion pirate ship.